Chosen one, listen not with your ears, but with your spirit. This is more than a motivational video, more than a prophetic word. This is your confirmation that you are not here by coincidence. This very moment was written in eternity, and today, you're standing at the edge of divine revelation. You were never meant to live a life of survival. You were never meant to walk in mediocrity. You were born with greatness coded into your DNA. And now, heaven is calling you to rise. Yes, you. You're not just blessed. You are handpicked. You are marked. You are a chosen one. And the message I bring today is thunder from heaven. God has chosen you to be a billionaire. Not for status, not for pride, but for purpose. This is your divine inheritance. You may have walked through seasons of lack, hardship, or feeling invisible, but none of that defines who you truly are. Every trial, every setback, every sleepless night was not a punishment, it was preparation. God wasn't ignoring you, He was equipping you. He was strengthening your spirit, sharpening your vision, and stretching your faith for something far greater than your current condition. You are not here by accident. Your life carries a divine blueprint, and within that blueprint is a calling that far exceeds what you see today. The challenges you faced weren't signs of failure. They were signals of future greatness. Like Joseph in the prison or David in the wilderness, your current chapter does not cancel your destiny. It confirms it. God is not just calling you to survive. He's calling you to lead, build, and bless. Your destiny is not tied to your bank account or background. It's tied to God's purpose for your life, and that purpose is overflowing with abundance. When heaven marks you as chosen, no earthly condition can limit what God has ordained. Your calling was written before your first breath, and now is the time to step into it. God never intended for you to live in lack. From the beginning, He authored a life of abundance for you, one rooted not in worldly striving, but in divine alignment. His plan for your wealth is precise, purposeful, and already in motion. All it takes to activate it is your agreement, your willingness to walk by faith, not by sight. In God's economy, faith is more valuable than money. It is the invisible currency that unlocks visible miracles. The world says, "Show me and I'll believe," but God says, "Believe, and I will show you." Faith is not passive. It moves, it acts, it steps out even when the way is unclear. And when you dare to act on what God has spoken, doors begin to open that no man can shut. Every time you choose faith over fear, you place a spiritual demand on the promises of God. That decision alone positions you to receive what He has already set aside for you. A flow of resources, connections, and ideas that far exceed natural logic. Faith isn't just believing in God's promise, it's responding to it. God has already placed within you everything you need to step into your billionaire calling. Your gift, the thing that comes naturally, the passion that ignites your soul, isn't ordinary. It's sacred. And when you steward it, when you refine and release it, it becomes the gateway to divine provision. You don't need to chase wealth. You need to cultivate what God gave you. That idea, that skill, that voice, that vision, it's a gold mine. And when faith meets obedience, your gift becomes the tool God uses to build legacy, bless nations, and fulfill His covenant of abundance in your life. This moment isn't just about receiving encouragement. It's about recognizing a divine activation. What you're hearing is not a mere message, it's the ignition of a movement. God isn't just speaking to you, He's commissioning you. This is a call to rise, not only as an individual but as a trailblazer for a generation of chosen ones who will reshape culture, economy, and history through faith-fueled wealth. This movement is bigger than motivation. It's about mobilization. You're being called to walk boldly in what heaven has already declared, that you are chosen to carry influence, impact, and divine abundance. Just as Moses led people out of captivity and Joseph turned famine into provision, your rise will become the evidence of God's faithfulness to those around you. And you're not alone. Across the world, Other chosen ones are awakening. Together, we are a collective force, those who refuse to bow to fear, those who build with purpose, those who bless through prosperity. This is not the beginning of a dream. It is the manifestation of destiny. You're not just receiving revelation. You're becoming a living expression of it. This is your moment to move, and your movement starts now. There comes a point in every journey when everything shifts, when what once seemed distant becomes undeniably real. That moment is now, not tomorrow, not someday. Right here, right now, transformation is unfolding. You are not on the edge of change. You are in the middle of it. God's timing is perfect, and today, He is opening doors that no one can close. This isn't about waiting for ideal conditions. It's about trusting that when God says move, miracles follow. You've been prepared in the quiet, refined in the fire, and now heaven is declaring, you're ready, ready to receive, ready to walk in what's already been written. What once felt delayed is now being delivered. The prayers you whispered in silence, the dreams you tucked away, the visions you nearly forgot, God never did. He's been aligning people, resources, and opportunities behind the scenes. All He needs now is your yes. This isn't just a new chapter. It's a divine unveiling. When you choose faith in this moment, you step into a reality where abundance flows, favor multiplies, and transformation accelerates. The wait is over. The shift is happening. And your billionaire breakthrough begins today. Transformation doesn't happen by accident. It happens by alignment. The billions God has prepared for you aren't waiting in some distant future. They're already within reach. But to walk in that reality, you must shift your mindset, your actions, and your atmosphere. Here's how you begin stepping into the wealth God has destined for you. 1. Believe bigger. Every breakthrough begins with belief. Not belief in what you see, but in what God has said. If you continue to think small, you'll live small, even with a big calling. God is not limited by your past, your education, or your resources. The only thing that can limit His blessings is your own belief. So stretch your faith. Believe that you're not just meant to have enough, but more than enough. Believe that your gift is valuable, your vision is needed, and your future is overflowing. 2. Take inspired action. Faith without action is empty. Once you believe, you must move. That business plan? Start writing it. That call you've been delaying? Make it. That idea that won't leave you alone? Pursue it. God gives divine ideas, but He expects earthly obedience. When you take that first step, even if it's small, you activate the flow of heaven's provision. 3. Guard your environment. Your destiny requires protection. Surround yourself with voices that lift your vision, not those that shrink it. Be intentional about who you let speak into your life. A billionaire mindset can't thrive in a poverty atmosphere. Stay connected to people, messages, and environments that cultivate faith, vision, and purpose. Together, these steps don't just prepare you for wealth, they position you to receive it. Your billions are not found in someday. They're accessed through bold belief, consistent action, and a guarded atmosphere of faith. Every great calling will face great resistance. But don't mistake opposition for failure. It's actually a signal that you're nearing breakthrough. When you begin to step into what God has spoken over your life, expect the enemy to push back. Why? Because your rise threatens everything that tried to keep you small. Doubt may creep in. Delays may frustrate you. People may misunderstand your journey, but none of it can stop what God has ordained. Resistance isn't rejection, it's revelation. It reveals how close you are to the door of destiny. The heat always intensifies just before the gold is refined. Remember, David faced Goliath just before becoming a national hero. Joseph was imprisoned right before being elevated to power. Your challenges aren't random. They're refining you, sharpening your focus, and deepening your faith for the abundance ahead. So when pressure rises, don't retreat. Press in. When lies whisper, "You're not enough," declare the truth. You were chosen for this. Resistance doesn't mean stop. It means God is about to launch you. Your billionaire destiny isn't behind you. It's right on the other side of the pressure you're pushing through. Stay the course. The promise is closer than it's ever been. This moment isn't just about receiving encouragement, it's about recognizing a divine activation. What you're hearing is not a mere message, it's the ignition of a movement. God isn't just speaking to you, He's commissioning you. This is a call to rise, not only as an individual but as a trailblazer for a generation of chosen ones who will reshape the wealth God is pouring into your life. Isn't just for comfort, it's for calling. You weren't chosen to simply accumulate riches. You were chosen to build a legacy that echoes through eternity. Every blessing He places in your hands carries purpose, and every dollar is a tool to heal, uplift, and restore. Your billions are not just a reward, they are a responsibility. They're meant to break cycles of poverty, fund dreams that have been silenced by lack, and plant seeds that future generations will harvest. Just as Solomon's wisdom built a kingdom of influence, and Joseph's strategy saved nations, your wealth is meant to transform lives beyond your own. This isn't about personal success, it's about kingdom impact. When God blesses you, He blesses through you. The legacy you're building will outlive your name, your time, and your reach. Schools will be founded, ministries launched, communities rebuilt, all flowing from the overflow God is entrusting to you. You are not just a recipient of wealth, you are a vessel of divine impact. And as you walk in obedience, your life will become a living testimony that when God blesses a chosen one, generations are changed forever. This is the part where you decide, will you shrink back, or will you rise? Will you chase what the world says is safe, or walk in the supernatural? God has written your name on this calling. Heaven is moving, angels are aligning, wealth is shifting. This is not a dream, this is your moment. You are no longer a slave, but God's child. And since you are His child, God has made you also an heir. Galatians 4:7. An heir to what? Billions. An heir to how much? All of it. An heir for when? Today. If this message stirred your spirit, take action. Drop 777 in the comments as a divine signal of agreement. Subscribe to this movement of chosen ones rising. Like this video to lock in this spiritual transaction. Write down your vision. Speak it daily. Live it boldly. Chosen one, your wealth is not just for you. It's for the world. Your life will be living proof that God keeps His promises. You're not just touching billions. You're transforming them into blessings. You're not waiting. You're walking in it now. Heaven hears you. The earth will soon see you, and history will remember you. Chosen one. This is no ordinary moment. You are not listening this by accident. Right now, heaven is leaning close, whispering secrets of destiny into your spirit. If your heart is stirring and your spirit quickening, know this. God has drawn you here for a purpose. Something profound, miraculous, and life-altering is about to be birthed into your reality. And it is happening within hours. The heavens are already moving. The prayers you've whispered in the stillness of the night, the dreams you've dared to nurture even when hope seemed faint, they are coming to life. The wait is over. This is your appointed time. The shift you have yearned for is no longer a distant hope. It is already set in divine motion. Are you ready? Because your life is about to transform beyond anything you can imagine. You've been holding on, through silent prayers, quiet tears, and questions no one saw but God. Every moment of waiting was not wasted. It was sacred preparation. And now, without warning, the shift you've long anticipated has arrived. Not in theory, not in the future, but now. The breakthrough isn't on the way. It's already unfolding. You're walking into it, moment by moment, even if you can't yet see the full picture. The atmosphere has changed. What once felt delayed is now divinely timed. What seemed closed off is beginning to open. The season of striving is giving way to supernatural release. Take a deep breath. This is the beginning of your new chapter. You don't need to force it. Just align your heart, stay grounded in faith, and watch as God completes what He started. You're not waiting anymore. You're stepping into fulfillment. Before your breakthrough fully manifests, heaven often sends quiet confirmations, gentle nudges that your spirit recognizes long before your eyes can see the change. These signs may come as repeating numbers, 111, 222, 555, or as phrases that echo unexpectedly throughout your day. They may be subtle shifts in your atmosphere, sudden moments of peace, or an unshakable sense that something is about to change. These aren't coincidences. They are whispers from the divine. God speaks in patterns, symbols, and timing, guiding you step by step, aligning your heart with what is coming. Often, you'll feel it before you see it, a stirring in your soul, a renewed sense of hope, a quiet voice within that tells you to stay ready. These moments are sacred. They are heaven's way of saying, hold on, your breakthrough is near. So pay attention. Tune your heart to the quiet language of the Spirit. The signs are around you, gently confirming that you are walking into the promise. Don't dismiss the small things. They are often the markers of something far greater about to unfold. Your faith has not gone unnoticed. Every moment you trusted God in lack, every time you sowed seeds without seeing a harvest, was seen and recorded. Now, the first wave of your breakthrough is approaching, and it carries financial provision unlike anything you've experienced before. But this isn't just about money. It's about freedom. Freedom to move without fear, to dream without limits, and to step fully into your God-given purpose. Provision is being released not merely for survival, but for expansion. You are entering a season where resources meet assignment. The blessing may come through unexpected channels, a business opportunity, a forgotten investment, a phone call you weren't expecting. Don't limit how God can move. He is not confined to predictable methods. He often uses the unlikely to prove that it was His hand, not human effort, that opened the floodgates. Stay open, stay faithful, and above all, stay positioned. The doors to abundance are unlocking. The shift is already happening, and when it reaches you, you'll know. This was divine. This was your moment. This was the breakthrough sent with your name written on it. As the sun sets and the world begins to quiet, a sacred stillness fills the air. It is in this holy hush that the spiritual realm becomes most active. A divine portal opens, inviting you to step into alignment with heaven's plans. In these evening hours, distractions fade, and your soul becomes more receptive to God's whispers. This is not just a peaceful moment. It is a window of supernatural access. When your heart is still and your spirit is tuned in, what you speak, believe, and declare carries accelerated power. Your words become seeds, your prayers become keys, unlocking doors in both the seen and unseen realms. God has designed this time for intentional creation. Write the vision, speak the promise, visualize what has yet to manifest. The sacred evening is not for idleness. It is for divine agreement. As you align your desires with God's will, the atmosphere begins to respond. Miracles do not always shout. Often they whisper. And if you listen closely during this sacred time, you'll feel the stirrings of heaven preparing to release what has long been waiting for your faith to claim it. As the world slips into slumber and silence blankets the night, a sacred hour emerges. Midnight, the moment where heaven touches earth in profound intimacy. While others rest, your spirit awakens to something deeper. This is the hour of healing, restoration, and divine awakening. In this stillness, God's presence moves without resistance. Physical wounds, emotional burdens, and spiritual fatigue begin to lift as divine light penetrates the darkness. You are not just being comforted, you are being renewed. The same God who created the stars now reaches into your soul to restore what has been broken and forgotten. But healing is only the beginning. This midnight hour also carries revelation. Visions may come, clarity may rise, and truths long buried may resurface. It's a sacred invitation to ascend, to see beyond your pain and understand your purpose through a higher lens. Don't ignore what you feel stirring within. Lean into it. This is more than rest. It is revival from the inside out. As your body lies still, your spirit is being awakened for what's next. Healing, clarity, and purpose are all rising with the midnight wind. Some chains are invisible, tied not to your body, but to your heart. Fear, shame, guilt, and lingering pain from the past often hold us captive in ways no one else can see. But in this sacred moment of breakthrough, those emotional chains are being broken. God is not only changing your circumstances, He is healing the inner places you've hidden. The wounds you've carried silently, the memories that haunted you, the doubts that whispered you'd never be enough. He sees them all, and He's come to set you free. This freedom doesn't shout. It flows like a gentle river, washing away the residue of old burdens. You'll begin to notice it in subtle shifts, lighter thoughts, clearer emotions, a sudden sense of peace where anxiety once lived. As you let go of what has held you back, you create space for what God wants to place within you: confidence, clarity, and wholeness. This is not temporary relief. It is the beginning of deep transformation. You were never meant to live shackled by your past. Now, you're stepping into emotional freedom, the kind that makes room for joy, purpose, and a life fully alive. There are moments when God draws back the veil between the natural and the eternal, allowing you to glimpse dimensions far beyond what the eyes can see. In this sacred season, you are being granted access to a deeper realm, a place where divine wisdom flows freely and truth is revealed without filter. This is more than just insight, it's revelation. Through vivid dreams, inner visions, and spiritual stillness, you will begin to perceive life through heaven's lens. Patterns that once confused you will now make sense. Questions you've carried for years will be answered in a single moment of clarity. This is divine intelligence, a download from God Himself to prepare you for what's next. You may feel yourself awakening with ideas, strategies, or creative visions you never imagined. These are not coincidences. They are keys, tools for your next level, birthed not from logic, but from alignment with the Spirit. This isn't fantasy or imagination. It's a sacred invitation to walk in greater awareness of your purpose. As you receive this wisdom, you'll move with confidence and peace, knowing you are guided by something far greater than human understanding. In the quiet of night, as your body rests and your spirit opens, God may take you beyond the boundaries of time. Through vivid, lucid dreams, you may begin to see glimpses of the road ahead, visions of your future shaped not by fear, but by divine design. These dreams are not random. They are not mere reflections of your subconscious. They are prophetic previews, given by God to prepare you for the choices, challenges, and blessings that lie ahead. You may see faces you've not yet met, doors that are about to open, or moments of decision that require clarity. These insights are meant to guide you, not to control your steps, but to align your heart with heaven's timing. When you awaken, don't dismiss them. Write them down. Reflect. Pray. These visions are maps, sacred instructions from the Spirit. God is showing you what is possible when you walk in obedience and faith. You are not wandering blindly. You are being led by the one who knows the end from the beginning. And now, through these divine dreams, your future is unfolding right before your eyes. There comes a moment in your journey when striving no longer serves you, when effort must give way to trust. This is that moment. God is inviting you to stop pushing and start flowing, to surrender your need for control and step into divine alignment. Alignment is not passive, it's deeply intentional. It means syncing your thoughts, actions, and desires with the rhythm of heaven. When you flow with God instead of resisting His timing, doors open without force, clarity comes without chaos, and progress accelerates without pressure. Often, the breakthrough you're waiting for is already in motion, but resistance slows its arrival. Surrender clears the path. When you release your timeline, your expectations, and your fear, you make room for God's hand to move freely in your life. This season is not about forcing outcomes. It's about recognizing the current of God's grace and letting it carry you. You'll begin to sense a holy momentum. Decisions become easier, burdens lighter, and peace deeper. You were never meant to navigate this alone, so breathe, release, and trust. In the flow of divine alignment, everything begins to shift in your favor. God often works in ways that defy logic, not through the expected, but through the extraordinary hidden in plain sight. The miracle you've been praying for may not come wrapped in grandeur, but through simple, unexpected moments that carry divine power. Just as ravens fed Elijah and a widow's oil never ran dry, your provision may arrive from sources you never considered. A forgotten opportunity, a kind gesture from a stranger, a delayed payment suddenly released. These aren't coincidences. They are orchestrated signs that heaven is moving on your behalf. God does this so you'll know the blessing didn't come from your plan, but from His. He's not confined to paychecks, people, or predictable outcomes. He is the God of surprises, of streams in the desert, and abundance in famine. So stay open. Don't overlook the small or unlikely. What appears insignificant may be the very door God is using to change your life. In His hands, the ordinary becomes miraculous. Your breakthrough may look different than you imagined, but it will be undeniable. And when it arrives, you'll see His fingerprints all over it. This is your moment, not just to hope, but to move. Every sign, every whisper, every shift in your spirit has been preparing you for what's unfolding right now. God hasn't forgotten you. He's been working behind the scenes, aligning everything for your good. Now it's your turn to respond. No more hesitation. No more fear. Step forward boldly, knowing the heavens have already released what you've been praying for. The door is open. The way is clear. The breakthrough is not coming, it's here. Walk in faith, because what's ahead will exceed every expectation. While you were waiting, God was working. While you were praying, He was positioning. And now the season has shifted. Your life will never be the same. As you embrace this new chapter, remember, you are not alone. We're honored to walk this journey with you, to speak life into your spirit, and to celebrate every miracle that unfolds along the way. Thank you for being here. If this message stirred something within you, we invite you to stay connected. Leave a comment below and share your testimony or what you're believing for. And don't forget, subscribe to this channel for more spirit-filled encouragement, divine insights, and breakthrough messages designed to lift your faith and speak directly to your heart. Miracles are moving. Breakthrough is here. You are chosen. You are ready. Now step into it. Pause. Take a breath. Because what you are about to watch is not just another motivational message, it is a sacred moment crafted just for you. This isn't coincidence. It's divine alignment. God has orchestrated this precise moment to speak life into your soul. You've cried out for a sign, begged for clarity, and waited patiently in the dark, hoping for a breakthrough. Beloved, this is it. Heaven has spoken, and the verdict has been delivered. Your battle is over. Can you feel the shift? The atmosphere is different now. Burdens are lifting, chains are falling, and something powerful is being released into your life. God is not only answering your prayers, He is declaring justice, freedom, and favor over your circumstances. This isn't just encouragement. It's your spiritual confirmation. Before beginning the video, let's subscribe, like this video, and stay with me until the end of this message, and you will understand why you were led here. This is your moment. Picture yourself standing in a divine courtroom bathed in celestial light. Every moment of pain, every silent tear, every whispered prayer has been laid bare, not as evidence of failure, but as proof of endurance. Around you, angelic witnesses stand in reverent silence, acknowledging the battles you've fought in secret. And then, from the throne of heaven, God speaks, not with condemnation, but with compassion. His words resound with power and mercy. The case is closed. This declaration isn't symbolic, it is final, eternal, and personal. What once weighed you down, the never-ending battles, the burdens that felt too heavy to carry, have now been lifted. He has witnessed your growth, your persistence, your faith that held on even when hope seemed distant. The time for struggle is over. The season of striving has come to an end. With this heavenly decree, a spiritual shift begins to unfold. Chains that once held you back are broken. Cycles of pain, patterns of fear, and voices of doubt begin to fall silent. You are no longer on trial. You are no longer in waiting. This is the moment where justice meets grace, where the past loses its grip, and where your new beginning finds its footing. The battle is no longer yours to fight. It belongs to God, and He has already declared victory on your behalf. Your case is closed, and your freedom has begun. Now that the case is closed, the question lingers in your heart. Why did I have to go through so much? Was all that pain truly necessary? The answer is gentle, but profound. Yes, it had a purpose. Your suffering was never in vain. Every sleepless night, every unanswered prayer, and every closed door was part of a divine strategy. Like a blacksmith refining metal through fire, God was shaping you, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Preparation always precedes promotion. And your trials were the classroom where strength, wisdom, and spiritual maturity were forged. Just as the Israelites wandered through the wilderness to learn faith and obedience before entering the promised land, your own desert season taught you what comfort never could. In your waiting, you discovered trust. In your heartbreak, you uncovered resilience. In the silence, you heard the whisper of God's voice. Perhaps you learned patience, waiting without giving up. Or you uncovered your true worth, no longer settling for less than God's best. Maybe through deep hurt, you learned forgiveness, not to excuse the wound, but to heal the soul. These were not random struggles. They were sacred lessons, and you've passed them all. Now, like a student graduating after years of study, you stand at the threshold of your next chapter. And because you allowed the pain to mold you, you are now ready to carry the purpose it prepared you for. The pain had a purpose, and now, so does your path forward. Now that the purpose behind your pain has been revealed, something within you shifts. You're not just being released from the past, you're being called into something new. This is more than an ending, it's a divine beginning. The same God who declared your case closed is now opening a door no man can shut. But with every new chapter comes a choice. The familiar, even when painful, can feel strangely safe. Old habits, toxic attachments, and limiting beliefs may try to cling to you like shadows. There's comfort in the known, even when the known has broken your heart. But God is calling you out of survival and into revival. He's asking you to leave behind the identity that was shaped by struggle and step into the person you were always created to become. This chapter isn't defined by hardship. It's marked by healing, growth, and favor. And though it may feel unfamiliar, it is entirely aligned with the destiny God has written for you. Isaiah 43:19 whispers to your soul, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" Yes. It takes courage to walk through a new door, but know this: you are not walking alone. The same God who led you through the valley is guiding you now with purpose and precision. This is your invitation to rise, not just to start over, but to start higher. Your past prepared you, but it no longer defines you. Your new chapter begins now. As you prepare to walk fully into the new chapter God has opened before you, there is one more vital step: letting go. While God has declared your freedom, it is now your responsibility to live in that freedom by releasing what no longer serves your soul. So ask yourself honestly, what am I still holding on to? Maybe it's a wound from the past that reopens when the world goes quiet. Or perhaps it's a voice, faint but persistent, that tells you you're not enough, no matter how far you've come. It could be regret over missed opportunities, guilt that lingers over past decisions, or the belief that you're destined to repeat the same struggles. These are more than just memories. They are attachments, silent chains of emotion that keep you connected to an old version of yourself, one that God has already set free and called into something greater. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means refusing to let your past dictate your future. Releasing attachments is not a denial of your journey. It's a declaration that your story is no longer stuck. Forgiveness is a key part of this release. Forgiving others, forgiving yourself. Not to excuse the pain, but to set your heart free. When you choose release, you create room. Room for healing, room for joy, room for God to do something new. Whisper these words over your heart. I let go. I am not what I was. I am ready to receive what's ahead. Because freedom isn't just given, it must be embraced. With your hands now free from the weight of old attachments, your heart becomes open, ready to receive something far more powerful. Divine guidance. The noise of the past once clouded your vision, but in this sacred stillness, you can finally hear what has always been there. God's gentle voice. Divine guidance doesn't always come as thunder from the heavens. More often it arrives in whispers, in the quiet nudge, the sudden peace, the unexpected clarity that settles in your spirit. Like the prophet Elijah, who found God not in the wind, fire, or earthquake, but in a still small voice, you too are invited to lean into the silence, to listen deeply. It begins with presence. A few moments of stillness in the morning, a breath before a decision, a pause in the chaos. These become sacred spaces where God speaks, not with pressure, but with peace, not with fear, but with gentle assurance. As you tune your heart to His frequency, you'll begin to notice divine patterns, doors opening, confirmations aligning, moments of knowing that can't be explained. What once felt like coincidence now feels intentional, guided. And here's the truth. You were never meant to walk this path alone. The God who brought you out is now walking you forward, step by step, whisper by whisper. So slow down. Breathe. Ask Him, what do you want me to see today? And then trust that even in silence, heaven is speaking. Revelation is a sacred gift, but its true power is only unlocked when it's followed by action. God has spoken. You've received clarity, healing, and confirmation. But now, heaven is asking something of you. Move. Many people stop at the moment of spiritual insight, believing the breakthrough is complete. But a word from God is not an end, it's an invitation. An invitation to trust Him beyond what's comfortable and to step into the unfamiliar with faith. Think of Moses. When God called him to lead His people, it wasn't enough to simply hear the voice from the burning bush. He had to go. Joshua still had to march. Abraham had to leave everything familiar behind. Each one took a step before the miracle ever arrived. So, what about you? Maybe God has placed a dream on your heart, whispered an idea, or nudged you to restore a relationship or take a bold leap forward. Don't let fear keep you paralyzed in the space between knowing and doing. Faith doesn't just believe, it moves. And even the smallest act of obedience can open the door to something far greater than you imagined. Take one step today. Send the message, write the plan, speak the truth. When you act on what God has shown you, you align yourself with His power, and that's where transformation becomes reality. The revelation was real. Now let your response be just as bold. Taking action is a powerful beginning, but to truly walk in the fullness of what God is building in your life, you must strengthen the foundation beneath your feet. Breakthrough is beautiful, but without consistency, even the strongest revelation can fade into memory. Spiritual transformation is not a one-time moment, it's a way of life. Just as a house must be anchored to withstand storms, your new season must be rooted in daily practice. What God has begun in you needs nurturing, shaping, and commitment to grow deep and last long. This means showing up, not just in times of crisis, but in the quiet, ordinary moments. It means starting your day with gratitude instead of worry, turning to prayer before panic, and seeking God's wisdom before the world's answers. These small habits are not small at all. They are the bricks that build a life anchored in truth. There will be distractions. There will be days when old patterns try to return. But now you have the tools to respond differently. You're not building on shifting emotions. You're building on God's faithfulness. Stay rooted. Return often to the promises He's spoken over your life. Let His word be your compass. Let worship be your rhythm. Let grace be the mortar that holds it all together. Because this isn't just about experiencing freedom. It's about living from it day by day. And strong foundations don't just hold your present. They carry your future. A strong foundation anchors you, but it's faith that keeps you standing through every changing season. It's what sustains you in the valleys, in the waiting, and in the quiet spaces where answers haven't yet arrived. There will be days when the light feels dim, when doubts whisper louder than truth, and when circumstances seem to challenge everything God has promised. But that's when your faith must speak louder, not a loud faith in words, but a steady faith in posture. A heart that says, even when I don't see it, I still believe. Remember, God's promises are not dependent on your emotions. He is faithful even when you feel uncertain. Like the disciples caught in a storm, you might fear the waves, but Jesus is in the boat, calm, unwavering, and in control. When fear returns, don't run, be still. When questions rise, don't panic, pray. Let your faith be a quiet anchor, not a desperate shout. Because true faith doesn't deny the storm, it trusts the one who commands it. And when joy comes, when victories arrive, don't forget where your strength came from. Let your gratitude be loud, and your devotion even louder. Faith is not fragile when it's built on God's truth. It is unshakable. This journey you're on isn't about never facing trouble again. It's about facing it differently, with God beside you and faith within you. That kind of faith holds, always. As your faith matures and your foundation strengthens, something beautiful begins to happen. You don't just carry God's truth, you become a vessel of it. Your life starts to reflect the very grace that sustained you. You are no longer just receiving from God. Now you're overflowing. This isn't about perfection or performance. It's about availability. God isn't looking for flawless people. He's looking for willing hearts. Hearts that say, "Here I am, Lord. Use me." When you've walked through fire and come out refined, your life becomes a light for others still searching for a way out. Your testimony becomes someone else's roadmap. Your healing becomes a signpost that hope is real. You begin to live not just for survival, but for impact. And it happens in the everyday moments. A kind word, a listening ear, a bold act of obedience when no one is watching. These are the ways you carry His presence into a hurting world. You become the bridge between brokenness and restoration. Just as Jesus walked among people, not above them, so are you called to live, humbly, compassionately, and courageously. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs hearts set on fire by love, filled with grace and willing to shine. You are that vessel. Your scars now carry purpose. Your story carries light. And your life is becoming a living testimony to what God can do through a surrendered soul. You've come a long way, from wounds to wisdom, from waiting to awakening. You've stood in the fire and found faith, walked through darkness and discovered light. And now, with your burdens lifted and your spirit renewed, the path ahead is clear. It's time, not just to believe differently, but to live differently. God has closed the case. The battle that once defined you no longer has power over you. You are not who you used to be. You are stronger, braver, more grounded in truth than ever before. And this new chapter you're stepping into, it's not something to tiptoe through. It's something to embrace with boldness. Walk forward with your head high, not in pride, but in purpose. Carry what God has placed within you, the peace, the vision, the calling, and let it shape every word you speak, every step you take. The road ahead may have challenges, but now you face them with faith, not fear. You were never meant to stay where you were. You were meant to rise, to rebuild, and to reflect God's glory through your story. So take the next step, then the next, and let your life echo the truth. You are chosen. You are ready. You are free. The battle is over. The breakthrough is here, and your future is wide open. Now go. Walk boldly. Your story is just beginning. There are no accidents in the divine plan. If this message found its way to you, it's not because of an algorithm. It's because destiny has a way of sending signals when your soul is ready to awaken. You didn't stumble across this. You were summoned. There's a deep and ancient truth written into the very fabric of the universe. Nothing powerful is born without pressure, and nothing chosen walks through life without resistance. The more light you carry, the more shadows you attract. But not everyone survives that contrast. You did. And now you're here. Not broken, but battle-tested. Not lost, but chosen. Let's begin this journey together. It's not just a message. It's a reflection of everything you've been feeling but couldn't put into words. From the earliest moments of your journey, something about you is different. You didn't fit in, and no matter how hard you tried, blending into the background never felt natural. That's because you weren't made to fade into the crowd. You weren't crafted for mediocrity. You were never ordinary. You've always carried something deeper, something heavier, a calling, a presence, a light that can't be easily ignored. And while others may have coasted through life, you've felt the weight of being different. But what you once saw as a burden was, in truth, a sacred signature of purpose. Ordinary lives don't shake atmospheres. Ordinary hearts don't carry the kind of fire that shifts generations. But you do. That's why life hasn't always been kind. Because the chosen path is rarely the easy one. It's the road carved through resistance, through rejection, and through refinement. And while some seem to rise with applause, your growth came in silence. Alone. In rooms where no one clapped, but heaven took notice. And as you continued to grow into your calling, something else began to happen. People started to leave. You held on with everything you had. You poured your love, your energy, your loyalty into people who couldn't see your worth. You chased doors that slammed shut, cried over opportunities that slipped through your hands, and wondered if the losses meant you weren't enough. But here's the truth. What left your life was never meant to stay. That relationship you gave your heart to, it couldn't carry your future. That opportunity you lost sleep over, it would have misaligned your destiny. Sometimes rejection is not cruelty. It's compassion in disguise. It's divine interference, saving you from what your heart wanted but your soul didn't need. You see, when you're chosen, not everyone can walk with you. Your future demands clarity, and clarity requires separation. So the exits you thought were your downfall were actually your deliverance. The universe heard conversations behind closed doors you never did. It saw the hidden motives, the quiet jealousy, the subtle sabotage, and it removed what you didn't have the strength to let go of. Let them go. Let what was never yours fall away without guilt. Because what's coming will recognize you instantly. You won't need to prove, to beg, or to break yourself to fit. The ones who are meant to be in your life won't be confused by your value. And that's exactly why so many couldn't get close to you, why certain relationships couldn't last, why you often felt like you were on the outside looking in. It's not because you were broken, it's because you are sacred. What is sacred must be protected. A diamond isn't placed on the sidewalk for anyone to grab. It's guarded, kept safe, cherished. And that's how heaven views you. When people mishandled you, it wasn't because you were too much. It was because they didn't have the capacity to honor you. They approached your spirit with dirty hands, not realizing the purity of what they were touching. And each time someone tried to use you, abuse you, or reduce you, life didn't punish them immediately, but it did take notes. The more sacred your purpose, the more protection you need. You weren't being left out. You were being guarded. While others focused on looking good, you were being prepared for something greater. That's why some people had to leave. It wasn't rejection, it was protection. No, your journey hasn't been easy. But truthfully, it's the pain that shaped your strength and built the fire inside you. You asked, why did it hurt so much? But the real question is, how else would the fire in you be forged? The heartbreaks, betrayals, lonely nights, and unanswered prayers, they weren't random. They were your refining fire. Because when God crowns a person, He first tests their heart. When the universe is preparing someone to lead, it puts them through seasons that break their ego, sharpen their vision, and strip away everything fake. You didn't suffer because you were weak. You suffered because strength was being carved into you. You didn't fall apart, you fell into place. Each crack in your heart became a channel for your light to shine through. Every wound gave birth to wisdom. And now, you don't just carry a message, you are the message. A living testimony that pressure doesn't destroy the chosen. It prepares them. So if you felt pain, if you felt like everything was falling apart, know this: it wasn't. It was falling into divine alignment. Can you feel it? That silent pull, that quiet but undeniable sense that something is changing. Not just around you, but within you. It's not anxiety. It's not coincidence. It's alignment. You are standing at the edge of something monumental, and the ground beneath you is shifting. But this transformation didn't happen overnight. It's been building. Slowly. Silently. Sacredly. Every tear you cried in private, every setback you thought would break you, every night you whispered, "Why does it have to be this hard?" It was part of a greater story being written in the unseen. You see, the shift always begins in silence, because what's truly powerful never needs to announce itself. It simply arrives. Ready. And this quiet rising, explains why the attacks have intensified. Because you don't walk like everyone else. You don't chase attention, yet somehow it finds you. You move with humility, but your presence speaks louder than pride ever could. That's what the Daniel anointing looks like. It's not about being loud. It's about being aligned. Daniel wasn't flashy, but even kings took notice. And so did the snakes. The same favor that promotes you is often the very thing that provokes others. Your growth exposes their stagnation. Your peace reveals their chaos. And your obedience? It's unsettling to a world obsessed with shortcuts and image. You've been misunderstood. Watched. Not with admiration, but with intimidation. But hear this. Their opinions don't define your purpose. Their envy doesn't disqualify your anointing. And their resistance? It's just proof that you're rising in the spirit before it's visible in the physical. Chosen ones don't need validation from crowds. They carry confirmation from above. Stop trying to make yourself smaller so others feel more comfortable. You were never meant to be liked by everyone. That's not your assignment. You were meant to leave a mark so undeniable it echoes long after you've left the room. And sometimes, that kind of presence doesn't attract applause. It attracts resistance. Your light makes people confront the darkness they've ignored. Your truth cuts through illusions others depend on to survive. So don't be surprised when your elevation causes people to distance themselves. They're not avoiding you. They're avoiding what your growth reveals about them. And that's okay, because you weren't built to be palatable. You were built to be powerful. Let them talk. Let them question. Let them misunderstand. Your worth doesn't shrink because someone else can't see it. The roar of your purpose is too loud to be silenced by their whispers. You've spent too much time trying to explain yourself to people who were never supposed to understand you. You see what others miss. You sense shifts in rooms others walk through blindly. You notice unspoken truths, feel unseen motives, and carry insight that doesn't come from books, It comes from divine download. That's not paranoia. That's precision. And the reason you've often felt out of place in surface-level spaces is because your depth intimidates shallow minds. But you don't have to keep explaining your moves, your decisions, or your silence. Chosen ones operate by spiritual radar, not public opinion. You were given a vision not everyone was meant to see, so stop translating it into a language they refuse to learn. Your obedience is enough. Your discernment is protection. And your distance? It's often the clearest sign of wisdom. You may look at others who seem more skilled, more connected, more applauded, and wonder, why not me? But what you don't see is that while talent might open doors, only obedience keeps them open. Obedience is showing up when you're tired. It's trusting the process when nothing makes sense. It's staying humble in silence when your heart screams for recognition. And that, right there, is what separates the chosen from the called. The world celebrates talent, but heaven honors obedience. Your breakthrough won't come because you were the loudest or the most polished. It'll come because you listened, because you waited, because you stayed true when no one was watching. And in a world that idolizes speed, your quiet consistency has made you unstoppable. There's a sacred silence that often follows the seasons of struggle, a quiet stretch of time where nothing seems to move, nothing seems to break through, and you wonder if all your effort was in vain. But silence does not mean stagnation. Don't let the stillness fool you. The quiet doesn't mean you're being forgotten. It means you're being formed. Warriors aren't built in the spotlight. They're sharpened in the shadows. And you, chosen one, have been hidden not to be overlooked, but to be preserved for the precise moment heaven declares, now. In this silent space, your roots have grown deep. Your strength has been forged far away from applause. And just when it seems like nothing is happening, that's when everything is happening. Stillness is not your enemy, it's your strategy. And just as you're growing in the silence, the favor on your life is becoming louder. But here's the part the world won't understand. Favor was never meant to be fair. It doesn't follow rules or respect order. It chooses the faithful over the flashy, the obedient over the obvious. So when you rise, they'll call it luck. They'll say it's undeserved. But they didn't see the price you paid in private. They weren't there for the nights you cried yourself to sleep. They didn't witness the storms you survived in silence. So let them whisper. Let them wonder. Favor isn't supposed to make sense. It's meant to make history. And now, the shift is no longer a distant promise. It's here. The atmosphere is changing. The alignment is happening. That surge you've felt in your spirit, it's not just emotion. It's preparation. This isn't business as usual. This is divine movement. The door you've been praying for isn't just opening, it's swinging wide. But it won't wait for hesitation. This is a suddenly season. The question isn't, will it happen? It's, are you ready? Because when the shift calls your name, the chosen don't chase, they rise. You were never random. You were always marked. Everything they used to bury you only proved how fireproof you are. Every detour, every disappointment, every dark night, none of it was in vain. Now, you are stronger, sharper, clearer, and the shift isn't just coming, it's already begun. This is your announcement, your alignment, your activation. You were not just chosen, you were made unstoppable. If this message spoke to your soul, thank you for sharing this moment with us. Your presence here matters. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss what's divinely meant for you. And if you're ready to step fully into your purpose, drop "I'm ready" in the comments. Your journey is just beginning. Let's rise together. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when the mask shatters, when the chains that once kept you small rust away under the fire of your awakening. You were never made to shrink, to please, to beg for validation. You were born to rise, to command, and to transform. And now, the world feels your shift. This isn't just a new attitude. It's a rebirth. It's the universe aligning with the truest, most untouchable version of yourself. The version they tried to suppress but could never extinguish. Today you stop being the peacekeeper at the cost of your own soul. Today you stop explaining yourself to those unworthy of your story. Today you step into the sacred truth of who you were always destined to become. Let's dive deep into this transformation together. Because your silence now roars, your glow now blinds, and your presence now demands respect, not permission. There comes a point when you must stop handing out explanations like apologies. You've spent too much time trying to justify your choices to people who were never truly listening, only scanning for flaws. It wasn't that you were unclear. It's that your clarity disrupted their comfort. You used to think if you said it kindly enough, clearly enough, they'd finally see your heart. But some people don't want to see. They cling to confusion because it gives them control. As long as you kept explaining, they stayed in charge of the narrative. Now you know better. You've learned that peace isn't found in over-explaining. It's found in letting go. Let them misunderstand you. Let them twist your silence into arrogance and your boundaries into betrayal. That's their story to carry, not yours to fix. You are no longer available for emotional translation. You don't owe anyone access to your truth just because they demand it. The ones who truly value you won't need constant explanations. They'll recognize your worth without a single word. For too long, you believed that giving everything you had, your time, your energy, your heart, was the highest form of love. You bent until you broke, convinced that your value was measured by how much of yourself you could pour into others. But no amount of sacrifice was ever enough. The more you gave, the more they expected, and the less they saw you. You carried the weight of relationships alone, mistaking exhaustion for loyalty. You silenced your own needs, believing that being selfless made you strong. But true strength isn't found in abandoning yourself. It's found in honoring yourself first. Now you know better. True love does not require you to become invisible. True connection does not demand that you bleed to prove your worth. Your needs, your dreams, your peace are not burdens. They are sacred responsibilities. You are no longer available for one-sided love. You are no longer willing to be drained to keep others comfortable. Choosing yourself is not selfish, it is survival. And you, finally, are allowed to protect your light without apology. There was a time when you believed that explaining yourself, defending your actions, or pleading for understanding would fix everything. You thought that if you just found the right words, people would finally see your heart. But no matter how much you spoke, they only heard what served their own narratives. Now you understand. Silence is more powerful than any argument. Silence is not weakness. It is mastery. When you refuse to engage with those who twist your words and reject your truth, you reclaim your power. You stop feeding battles that were never meant to be won. In your silence, you become untouchable. You no longer waste your breath convincing anyone of your worth. You no longer argue with projections or beg for respect. Your absence speaks louder than your defense ever could. Those who once thrived on your reactions now sit unsettled, unable to control a version of you they can no longer provoke. Your peace becomes your shield, and your stillness becomes your roar. Not every battle needs your voice. Sometimes the loudest victory is walking away, quietly, powerfully, without a backward glance. Not all love is love. Sometimes what feels warm at first slowly turns into a cage. You once believed that love meant constant sacrifice, being agreeable, available, and endlessly forgiving. You thought their affection was proof of your worth. But real love never demands you lose yourself to keep it alive. True love nurtures your growth. It doesn't resent your independence. True love celebrates your voice. It doesn't silence it. When love comes with conditions, when it requires you to shrink, to bend, to stay silent, it's not love at all. It's control, hidden beneath sweet words and false affection. You see it clearly now. Their praise was never about your spirit. It was about your obedience. The moment you began setting boundaries, the mask slipped. Their warmth cooled. Not because you became unworthy, but because you stopped playing a role that served them. You are no longer available for love that demands your silence. You are no longer willing to confuse control for care. Real love honors your soul, not your submission. And now, you will accept nothing less. For too long, you molded yourself into who they wanted you to be. Agreeable, accommodating, endlessly understanding. You silenced your truth, softened your boundaries, and wore a smile even when your soul was aching, all to be accepted. But chasing approval is a race with no finish line. The more you gave, the more they expected, and the less of yourself you recognized. Now you understand. Being liked is not the goal. Being true to yourself is. Approval built on pretending is not connection. It is captivity. When you live for their acceptance, you die by their rejection. And no amount of validation can fill the emptiness left behind when you abandon yourself. Today, you choose authenticity over approval. You choose truth over performance. Those who truly see you will celebrate your honesty, not punish you for it. And those who fall away were never aligned with your soul. They were only clinging to the version of you that made them comfortable. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to live fully, love deeply, and stand boldly in your own light, whether they applaud or not. You were the glue, the one who held everything together while quietly falling apart. You were always the first to reach out, the quickest to forgive, and the one who tirelessly found reasons to excuse their behavior, all in a desperate attempt to hold the peace that was never truly yours to keep. And then, something shifted. You stopped showing up where you weren't valued. You stepped back, not out of bitterness, but from exhaustion. And when you did, things began to crumble. The friendships faded, the conversations grew cold, and the support you once gave so freely was nowhere in return. But here's the truth. What falls apart in your absence was never stable to begin with. You were not part of their strength. You were their crutch. And now that you've stepped away, their silence speaks volumes. You no longer carry what isn't yours. You've made space for peace to replace obligation. Let it fall. Let it reveal itself. Because what remains without your sacrifice, that is what was real all along. There was a time when you dimmed your light to make others comfortable, when you whispered instead of speaking boldly, when you played small so you wouldn't be seen as too much. You thought fitting in was the safest way to be loved, but all it did was teach you how to disappear in plain sight. Now, your energy has shifted, and people feel it before you say a word. You no longer walk into rooms hoping to be accepted. You enter with quiet power, knowing you belong, whether they welcome you or not. Your presence speaks for itself. It doesn't ask. It doesn't beg. It commands. And yes, it makes some people uncomfortable. Not because you've changed, but because you've stopped apologizing for who you are. They miss the version of you that stayed small, silent, and easy to manage. But that version no longer exists. You weren't made to blend in. You were born to stand out. So take up space. Speak your truth. Let your energy be undeniable. And never shrink to soothe someone else's insecurity. You were taught to be nice, to say yes when you wanted to say no, to stay quiet when your soul was screaming, to avoid conflict at all costs. You wore politeness like a second skin, believing that being agreeable made you a good person. But over time, nice became a prison. You weren't being kind. You were being conditioned. Conditioned to please, to appease, to put everyone's needs above your own. You tolerated disrespect, forgave too quickly, and gave until you had nothing left, all in the name of being liked. But now you see it for what it was, a trap. They didn't respect your kindness. They relied on it to control you. Real kindness comes from strength, not fear. It's firm, it's wise, and it knows when to walk away. You no longer offer your goodness to those who treat it like weakness. You've learned to say no without guilt, to speak without apology, and to protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. You were never just nice. You were powerful. Now, you finally act like it. There was a time when you shaped yourself to fit the roles others assigned you. The helper, the listener, the one who always said yes. You lived for their approval, feared disappointing them, and confused compliance with connection. You made yourself easy to depend on, believing that's what made you valuable. But not anymore. Now you walk in your truth. You no longer wait for permission to be who you are. You set boundaries without apology, speak without fear, and choose your own direction, even if it makes others uncomfortable. And it does. Your independence unsettles them, not because you've done something wrong, but because they can no longer control you. They're not used to the version of you that doesn't ask to be seen, who simply is, unapologetically. You've become what they never expected, whole without their approval. And that terrifies those who only knew how to relate to your weakness. Let it. You weren't born to be manageable. You were born to be free. You were taught to believe that love meant endurance, that if you gave enough, forgave enough, stayed long enough, it would eventually feel right. But love that makes you small, silent, or unsure of your worth is not love at all. It's control wrapped in false affection. Real love doesn't ask you to shrink to fit someone else's comfort. It doesn't punish your boundaries or weaponize your emotions. Love without respect is a performance, one where only you are acting, while the other pulls the strings. You've done the emotional labor. You've excused the red flags and softened your truth for the sake of peace. But peace that costs your dignity is just quiet chaos. Now you know the difference. Love without respect is just manipulation in disguise. And you're done mistaking crumbs of affection for commitment. You deserve a love that listens, honors, and protects, not one that demands silence in exchange for attention. So walk away from what dishonors your spirit. You are not hard to love. You're just no longer willing to accept love that comes without respect. Pay close attention. Not everyone who clapped for you wanted you to win. Some only celebrated you when your success felt small enough not to threaten them. They smiled when you struggled, offered support when you doubted, and stayed close as long as you remained below their comfort line. But the moment you began to rise, confidently, unapologetically, their energy shifted. Suddenly, the praise turned to silence. The conversations grew shorter. The support disappeared. And that silence? It's not random. It's revealing. Your growth made them uncomfortable. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your light exposed where they were still hiding. Your confidence reminded them of the dreams they never chased. Your power disrupted the dynamic they once controlled. Let it. Their absence is not a loss. It's a filter. The ones who go quiet when you succeed were never your tribe. They were spectators of your struggle, not witnesses to your becoming. Appreciate the people who are happy for your success and still stand by your side, and let go of those who disappear when you finally start living fully as yourself. When people say they miss the old you, pause and ask yourself why. Was it really you they missed, or was it the version of you who was easier to control? The one who stayed quiet to keep the peace, who gave endlessly without asking for anything in return, who tolerated too much and questioned too little. The old you made others comfortable, even when it cost you your voice. And they loved that version, not because it reflected your truth, but because it served their convenience. You were accessible, agreeable, and easy to bend. But now you've changed. You've found your strength. You've started saying no, setting boundaries, and protecting your peace. And that shift has made some people uncomfortable. Don't mistake their discomfort for love. They're not grieving your essence. They're mourning the access they lost. And anyone who only valued you when you were shrinking is not someone you owe a return to. You didn't lose them. You simply outgrew who they needed you to be. You've shed the weight of pleasing, apologizing, and shrinking. What once held you back no longer defines you. You are not who you were. And that's your power. You've stepped into a version of yourself that no longer begs to be seen. Because now, you simply shine. Let this be your reminder. Your boundaries are sacred, your voice is powerful, and your presence is enough, exactly as it is. Thank you for walking this journey with me. If this message stirred something in your spirit, I'd love for you to be part of this growing community. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, leave a comment, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a moment of truth, strength, and healing. You're not just rising, you're becoming unstoppable. And the world is better because you chose to stand tall. Life doesn't move in a straight line. It unfolds through different seasons, challenges, and moments of deep realization. For many, society defines success by age milestones. Graduate in your 20s, peak in your 30s, and settle down by 40. But what if the real journey doesn't begin until 40? What if your 40th birthday is not a countdown to aging, but a divine appointment for becoming? If you've always felt different, out of place in shallow conversations, drawn toward deeper meaning, or burdened by an invisible calling, then this message is for you. You are a chosen one, a soul with a sacred purpose, and your life truly begins at 40. Let us walk together through the 8 profound reasons why this chapter of your life might just be the most important one yet. 1. You have mastered the art of letting go. In the earlier chapters of life, the instinct to hold on is strong. We cling to relationships, identities, and expectations, not always because they nourish us, but because they're familiar. Even when something hurts, we hesitate to release it, fearing the emptiness that might follow. Letting go feels like failure, like giving up on what we once hoped would last. But something shifts as you step into the wisdom of 40. You begin to see letting go not as loss, but as liberation. You recognize that release is not about giving up. It's about making room. Room for peace. Room for joy. Room for the person you are becoming. With each heartbreak, every disappointment, and every season of pain, you've gathered something precious. Clarity. You've learned that holding on to what no longer serves your growth only weighs you down. And now, you no longer mourn what leaves. You bless it, thank it for its lesson, and gently open your hands. This is not a lesson learned overnight. It's carved from years of living, of wrestling with change, and of slowly awakening to the truth that your worth is not tied to what you keep, but to what you're willing to release for the sake of your becoming. Letting go has become a quiet strength in your life. It has shown you how to trust the ups and downs, how to let go without fear, and how to make room for what truly belongs. In doing so, you've found real peace. 2. Time no longer controls you. For much of your life, time felt like a race. There was always a clock ticking, subtle, relentless, pushing you to do more, to be more, to reach certain milestones by certain ages. Whether it was career, relationships, or personal success, everything seemed urgent, as if you were falling behind some invisible standard set by society. But now, as you step into the deeper awareness that comes with 40, something profound begins to shift. You start to understand that the pressure was never real. It was only a story you were taught to believe. Time is no longer your master. It becomes your companion. Instead of rushing, you begin to trust. Trust that your life is unfolding exactly as it should. Trust that divine timing governs every chapter, every opportunity, and every pause. This realization brings freedom. The anxiety that once lived in the gap between where you are and where you thought you should be begins to fade. You become grounded in the present, no longer haunted by the past or obsessed with the future. You move with intention now, not urgency. You understand that what is meant for you will never miss you. And in that stillness, in that surrender, you finally reclaim your rhythm, not by speeding up, but by letting go of the need to rush. Time no longer controls you. It flows with you. 3. You discover your true purpose. In the earlier seasons of life, purpose often feels elusive. You try on different roles, pursuing careers, chasing dreams, achieving goals, all in hopes that one of them will finally feel like home. Yet, despite your efforts, something always seems to be missing. A quiet ache lingers beneath the surface, whispering that there's more to who you are than what the world sees. At 40, that whisper becomes a revelation. Suddenly, the scattered pieces of your past begin to make sense. The struggles that once seemed random, the paths that ended abruptly, and the years that felt wasted, all of it begins to reveal its purpose. What once looked like detours now appear as necessary steps in your becoming. You realize that your pain was not punishment, but preparation. Every setback sharpened your insight. Every redirection refined your calling. And now, for the first time, you feel a sense of inner alignment, a deep knowing that you are exactly where you're meant to be. This is the moment when purpose stops being a question and starts becoming a calling. It's not about titles or applause. It's about impact, meaning, and living in harmony with your soul. You no longer chase purpose outside yourself. You remember it from within. You step forward not with uncertainty, but with conviction, because you've been prepared for this. And now, you are ready to walk in your truth, not to prove anything, but simply to fulfill what was always yours to carry. 4. You no longer seek external validation. There was a time when being seen, understood, and approved by others felt essential. You shaped parts of yourself to fit in, softened your voice, concealed your doubts, and wore masks that kept you feeling safe. Praise felt like affirmation, criticism, like rejection. And so, you lived much of your life seeking permission to be who you truly were. But with age and experience comes clarity. And at 40, something within you shifts. You begin to understand that real freedom doesn't come from being accepted by others. It comes from accepting yourself. The validation you once craved from the outside begins to rise from within. You no longer feel the need to explain your choices or justify your path. The opinions that once shaped you now pass through you, no longer holding power. This new confidence isn't loud or performative. It's quiet, rooted, and unshakable. It comes from knowing who you are, flaws, gifts, history, and all, and choosing to honor that truth unapologetically. You stop bending to expectations that no longer serve you. You let go of the need to be liked, and instead focus on being real. You no longer chase approval because you've realized that worth isn't given. It's remembered. Now you walk your path with integrity. Whether others understand or not no longer defines you, because your value isn't found in their applause. It's found in your own alignment with your truth, your peace, and your purpose. 5. Your spiritual awakening deepens. Spiritual awakening often begins as a subtle stirring, a quiet pull towards something greater than yourself. In your younger years, it may have shown up in moments of wonder, a longing for deeper meaning, or unexplainable feelings that whispered of something beyond the physical world. But life's noise often drowned those whispers out. Now, at 40, those whispers grow louder, clearer. The distractions that once consumed your energy begin to fade, and in their place emerges a hunger for truth, stillness, and connection. You no longer chase answers in the outer world. Instead, you turn inward, and there, you find wisdom waiting. The challenges you've faced, the synchronicities you've witnessed, the paths that led you through both light and shadow, none of it was random. You begin to see a divine pattern woven through it all. What once felt chaotic now feels orchestrated with sacred precision. Your intuition sharpens, your dreams carry meaning. You find yourself drawn to practices that nourish your soul, whether it's prayer, meditation, journaling, or simply moments of silence beneath the sky. These are no longer habits. They are lifelines. You begin to trust the guidance that flows from within. You understand that the divine doesn't live somewhere far away. It lives within you. And as you deepen this connection, you begin to live with a sense of peace, purpose, and profound alignment. This is no longer just an awakening. It is a return, a homecoming to your truest self. 6. Your energy becomes magnetic. As you grow into yourself, you begin to sense the world differently, not just through sight or sound, but through energy. At 40, your awareness sharpens. You notice how people make you feel, how environments affect your peace, and how your own presence carries weight. This isn't imagination, it's intuition coming alive. In earlier years, you may have ignored the heaviness around certain people or tolerated spaces that drained your spirit. You stayed out of obligation, habit, or fear of conflict. But now you move differently. You protect your energy like it's sacred, because you finally understand that it is. This new awareness transforms how you live. You no longer give your time to relationships that pull you down or conversations that leave you empty. Instead, you seek alignment, harmony, flow. You know when something resonates with your soul and when it doesn't, and you honor that without guilt. As you become more intentional with your thoughts, emotions, and actions, your energy shifts. It strengthens, it clarifies, and that clarity becomes magnetic. You begin attracting people, opportunities, and experiences that reflect your growth and support your journey. You are no longer just reacting to life, you are shaping it. With focused energy and conscious presence, you create space for joy, peace, and purpose to thrive. Your energy speaks before you do, and now it speaks truth, strength, and light. 7. You embrace solitude as sacred. There was a time when solitude echoed like loneliness, a gentle ache that slipped in with the silence when the world finally grew quiet. You may have filled your days with noise, people, or distractions just to avoid the silence. Like many, you once believed that being alone meant something was missing. But now, at 40, solitude transforms into something sacred. You begin to see that silence isn't empty, it's full of truth. In the stillness, you meet yourself again, not the version shaped by expectations, but the one your soul has always known. You no longer run from quiet moments. You crave them. Solitude becomes your sanctuary. It's in these spaces of retreat that clarity emerges. You reflect, realign, and reconnect with the divine voice within. No longer do you seek validation or direction from the outside. Instead, you turn inward and discover a source of wisdom that has always been there, waiting. You understand now that solitude doesn't separate you from the world. It strengthens your presence in it. Time alone becomes a place of healing, of creativity, of spiritual renewal. You find beauty in your own company and strength in your own stillness. What once felt heavy now feels holy. You realize you were never truly alone, because Spirit, the universe, and your higher self have been walking beside you all along. And in this sacred quiet, you rise stronger, clearer, and more connected than ever before. 8. You finally live for yourself. For much of your life, you may have worn masks to meet expectations of family, of society, even of your younger self. You made choices to please others, to avoid conflict, or to fit into roles that never truly reflected who you are. You put your own dreams on hold, telling yourself there would be time later. But now, something within you awakens. At 40, you begin to see life differently. You realize how precious time is, and how costly it is to live a life that doesn't belong to you. The weight of expectation starts to fall away, and in its place rises something more powerful: permission. Permission to be honest, to be bold, to finally be you. You no longer feel the need to shrink yourself to keep others comfortable. You no longer trade your peace for approval. Instead, you begin choosing what aligns with your spirit, not out of rebellion, but out of reverence for your truth. Living for yourself doesn't mean abandoning those you love. It means showing up more fully, more authentically, because you're no longer living divided. You pursue passions that light you up. You say yes when it feels right, and no without guilt. You honor your needs, your voice, your worth. This is not selfishness. It's wholeness. You are no longer surviving life. You are shaping it, with intention and courage. And in doing so, you finally begin to live, not for anyone else's story, but for your own. If you've made it to this point in life, through the storms, the stillness, the questions, and the quiet awakenings, know this: you didn't come this far by accident. Every detour was direction. Every delay was divine timing. Everything you've endured was part of a sacred preparation to bring you here, to this moment of arrival. 40 is not the beginning of the end. It's the unveiling of who you were always meant to be. You are not behind. You are becoming. This chapter is not about chasing more, proving your worth, or meeting someone else's timeline. It's about reclaiming your power, honoring your truth, and stepping fully into the life your soul was born to live. You are no longer who the world told you to be. You are who you were called to be. So walk forward with grace, with purpose, with your heart open and your spirit grounded. The best isn't behind you. The best is just beginning. If this message has stirred something within you, if it resonated with your spirit, then you were meant to hear it. Thank you for sharing this space, for opening your heart, and for walking this path with us. If you feel aligned with this journey, we invite you to subscribe to our channel, a place where purpose meets presence and awakening is celebrated. Join a growing community of souls walking in truth, light, and divine timing. The best is yet to come, and we're just getting started. There is a moment in every chosen one's life when the world no longer makes sense the way it used to, when the noise fades and something powerful, almost ancient, begins to stir from deep within. It's not loud, it's not obvious, but it's undeniable. This is that moment. You, the soul forged in silence and tested in fire, are no longer the same. The world may still see you through the lens of who you were, but they can feel the change, even if they can't name it. It's not just growth. It's not just survival. It's transformation. They see the shift in your eyes, hear it in your silence, feel it in your presence. The truth is, your glow isn't on the way. It's already here. Before beginning the video, let's subscribe, like this video, and stay with me until the end of this message, and you will understand why you were led here. This is your moment. They may look at you now and wonder what changed. Some assume it's your appearance, your style, your glow, your posture. But what they're witnessing isn't surface level. It's the radiance of someone who was refined in silence and shaped by struggle. This isn't a makeover. It's a rebirth. You didn't rise because you followed trends or mimicked what was popular. You rose because you endured what others couldn't. Every ounce of strength you carry wasn't gifted. It was earned in the fires of rejection, betrayal, and quiet nights of deep self-reflection. The glow they see now? It came from within, from pain that didn't break you, but built you. And the irony? While they were watching for your downfall, your roots were growing deeper. You were transforming where no one could see, inwardly, spiritually, and eternally. Now that you've emerged, their confusion is loud, but your transformation is louder. They can imitate your look, your words, your walk, but they'll never replicate your spirit. Because you were not fashioned by trends. You were forged by truth. And that makes your presence not just beautiful, but unshakable. There was a time you tried to shrink, fitting yourself into the comfort zones of others, making yourself smaller so they wouldn't feel insecure. You softened your truth, dulled your shine, and wore humility like armor. But no more. The truth is, your light was never meant to be hidden. It was meant to illuminate. And now, as your spirit awakens and your energy expands, you're realizing that your very presence changes the atmosphere. You walk into a room, and something shifts. Conversations quiet. Eyes turn. Not because of your outfit or your voice, but because your essence enters first. Your light speaks before you do. It isn't arrogance. It's awareness. You've discovered who you are, and that self-knowing radiates in ways that can't be explained. only felt. Some may call it intimidating, others mysterious, but what they're really sensing is your alignment. You no longer blend in because you weren't created to. You were made to stand out, not for praise, but for purpose. So stop dimming your light to make others comfortable. Let it shine unapologetically. Because when you walk fully in your truth, your presence becomes unforgettable. In a world that celebrates imitation, your refusal to pretend is what sets you apart. While others wear borrowed identities like costumes, chasing trends, reshaping themselves to be accepted, you show up as you are, no mask, just truth. That truth, though quiet, commands the room. You don't need to announce your authenticity. It radiates from you like warmth in winter, subtle yet undeniable. And while others scramble for applause, your stillness draws attention without effort. You're not trying to be different. You simply are, and that alone makes you unforgettable. Authenticity doesn't shout. It resonates. It doesn't beg for approval. It stands in confidence. Most people fear being seen without their layers, but you've stopped hiding. You've let your wounds breathe, let your story live, and in doing so, you've become magnetic, not because you seek validation, but because you embody liberation. Your authenticity is not rebellion, it's remembrance. A return to who you were before the world told you to become someone else. And that remembrance is powerful. It shakes people awake. It inspires some, unsettles others, but it always leaves a mark. Because real is rare. And you, just by being real, are changing everything. You've always known things without being told. While others listen to what's said, you hear what's left unsaid. You feel the tension in a glance, the ache behind a smile, the storm hiding beneath silence. It's not guesswork. It's your gift. Your intuition is not just a skill. It's a sacred language that doesn't require words. And while it may unsettle those who prefer masks, it comforts those longing to be seen. Because with you, they are seen. Not just for who they pretend to be, but for who they really are beneath the surface. You don't expose people. You reveal truth through presence. That's what makes you unforgettable. People come to you without knowing why. Strangers open up. Friends feel safe in your silence. It's not that you ask the right questions. It's that your energy gives them permission to drop their walls. You mirror back to them the emotions they've buried deep, and the ones who fear being known? They'll call you intense, maybe even too much. But the truth is, you're just deeply tuned in. You feel what others overlook. You sense what they suppress. That's not sensitivity. It's spiritual perception, and it's part of what makes your presence powerful beyond words. You no longer need to explain yourself. You don't raise your voice, don't draw lines with words, but somehow, people know. They feel it. There's a shift in your energy, a quiet authority that speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. This is what happens when you begin to honor your worth. You've stopped entertaining what drains you. Stop justifying your silence or defending your decisions to those who never truly listened. Now, when someone enters your space, they sense the difference. It's not coldness, it's clarity. A spiritual signal that says, this is sacred ground. You no longer allow chaos to cross your threshold, not because you're guarded, but because you finally understand the value of peace. Your presence itself draws a line that says, only what aligns may remain, and those who once took advantage of your kindness now tread carefully, not because you've become harsh, but because your energy no longer bends for comfort. It stands in truth. That's the power of an unspoken boundary. The strongest walls aren't built from bricks. They're built from self-respect. And the people who once mistook your silence for weakness now see it for what it truly is. Strength, grounded and immovable. You didn't announce your evolution. You didn't need to. The shift within you spoke volumes before you ever said a word. Real transformation never begs to be seen. It simply becomes impossible to ignore. There's a new presence about you now. It's in your eyes, in your stillness, in the way you move through the world with quiet confidence. People may say you look different, but it's not your appearance that changed. It's your energy. Your light isn't cosmetic. It's cosmic. You've grown in silence, healed in solitude, and risen in ways most can't understand. While they were watching for signs on the outside, the real glow-up happened on the inside. That glow? It's the soft fire of someone who's met themselves in the dark and chose to rise with grace. They can't place what shifted, but they feel it. It's not style, it's spirit. You no longer walk in the room seeking space. You own it without trying. And while some are drawn to it, others are intimidated by it. Because deep down they know. What you carry can't be faked, copied, or taken. You didn't transform for applause. You transformed for alignment. And now, you glow because you've become who you were always meant to be. In a world that rushes to speak, you've mastered the rare strength of stillness. While others talk to be heard, you listen to understand. Not just the words, but the silence between them. That's where your power lies. Your empathy isn't loud or performative. It's quiet, deep, and disarming. People feel safe around you without knowing why. Strangers open up, friends reveal secrets they've never shared, and even those who try to hide find themselves seen, completely and without judgment. It's not just kindness, it's presence. You feel what others avoid. You sense the sadness behind the smile, the fear behind the anger, the truth buried beneath the mask. And yet you don't expose or exploit. You hold space. You allow others to feel understood, sometimes for the first time. That kind of empathy can't be taught. It's a gift, a sacred one. And in a world starving for authenticity, your presence is a healing balm. It unsettles the fake and comforts the broken. They may not remember your words, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. Because in your presence, they found something they didn't know they were missing. Real connection. That's not softness. That's strength. That's your edge. You weren't made to race. You were made to rise. While others exhaust themselves trying to outshine, you've stepped into a different rhythm entirely, one that isn't frantic or forced. It's rooted in purpose. You've realized something most people never do. Competition is distraction, but creation is liberation. You're not here to mimic the crowd. You're here to build something they can't duplicate. Your ideas, your voice, your vision, it all flows from a place deeper than applause. That's why you don't panic when others succeed. You understand that your path is sacred and your timing divine. While they chase relevance, you craft legacy. There's a calmness in you that rattles those stuck in comparison. They don't understand how you move so confidently, so peacefully, without needing to prove anything. But that's the beauty of purpose. It eliminates the need for permission. Your focus is your fire. And by choosing to create instead of compete, you've become untouchable. Imitation can't reach where authenticity flows. You're not in the race because you've already won. In your own lane, by your own light, for your own reasons. And that's exactly why your energy can't be copied. Because you didn't come to impress, you came to impact. You don't need to speak loudly to be heard. Your depth carries a silence that echoes louder than noise. And when you enter a space, it's not your volume that shifts the atmosphere. It's your presence. There's something about you that unsettles the surface level. While others chase attention with shallow charm, your energy cuts through illusions. You don't perform, you reveal. Not with speeches or demands, but through stillness, focus, and authenticity. Your eyes hold questions most people avoid asking. Your silence invites reflection. And in that quiet, others are forced to face themselves, sometimes for the very first time. It's not that you're trying to be intense. You simply refuse to live at the surface. You value meaning over mimicry, truth over trend, connection over crowd. Some admire you, others avoid you, but all of them feel you. They don't know why being around you makes them rethink their lives, their relationships, their routines. But you do. It's because your soul doesn't settle for superficial. You walk in purpose, and it challenges those still clinging to performance. You didn't come to fit in. You came to awaken. And when depth walks into a shallow room, ripples are inevitable. You weren't just shaped by pressure, you were refined by it. While others bent under the weight of life, you absorbed the lessons, stood taller, and carried on with silent strength. You didn't just make it through the fire, you became it. There's a calm in your walk, a steadiness in your presence that tells a story without needing words. People feel it, even if they don't understand it. They sense the gravity in your silence, the grace in your survival. You are proof that peace can live on the other side of pain, and that's what makes you magnetic. Not that you avoided hardship, but that nothing could keep you down. Your resilience is quiet, but it's unshakable. And those who once doubted you now watch in awe, not just because you endured, but because you've become unstoppable. They expected anger. They expected revenge. But you chose something far more powerful: peace. Forgiveness wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. You realized holding on to bitterness only chained you to the pain they caused. So, you let go, not for them, but for you. Because your healing mattered more than their apology. You didn't win by fighting back, you won by rising above. And that's what confuses them most. You didn't return fire, you returned to yourself. In choosing peace over pride, you reclaimed your power in full. Now their actions no longer define you. The freedom you walk in does. They wanted to see you broken, but instead they now see you glowing. Untouchable, unbothered, unmoved. Your forgiveness disrupted the cycle. It ended the war. And in doing so, you became the revolution they never saw coming. While the world runs after applause and attention, you chose something deeper: purpose. While others shape themselves to fit the moment, you move with timeless intention. You don't follow trends, you follow truth. And that's why your presence feels different. It's not loud, but it lingers. It doesn't demand attention, it commands respect. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be aligned. And the irony? The more you ignore the crowd, the more magnetic you become, because people are drawn to what's real, even if they don't know how to name it. Your consistency speaks louder than applause. Your clarity cuts through the noise. And as others burn out chasing visibility, you rise quietly, anchored, focused, unstoppable. You didn't choose the easy path. You chose the right one. And in doing so, you became not just someone to watch, but someone to follow. You've spent too long trying to shrink into spaces that couldn't hold your light. But now you see it clearly. You were never created to blend in. You were shaped by fire, refined by silence, and called to rise in ways others can't comprehend. This journey was never about acceptance. It was about alignment. And now every step you take in truth makes your presence louder, your purpose sharper, your glow undeniable. You're not just different, you're designed. And the world is finally catching up to what heaven already knew. You were born to stand out. There comes a moment in life, sometimes sudden, sometimes subtle, when something inside you stirs. A whisper, a flicker, a strange clarity that breaks through the chaos, telling you, you were never ordinary. You were never meant to sleep. This moment, right here, is not an accident. It's alignment, a calling. You are not watching this by chance. You were guided here. Because you're one of them, one of the chosen. But the world never wanted you to realize that. They tried to drown you in doubt, covered your brilliance in confusion, kept you distracted, disconnected. And now, they're terrified. Because you're remembering. And once the chosen remember, everything that tried to control them, fear them, erase them, starts to collapse. This isn't just a message. This is your activation. From the very beginning, you may have felt like life placed unusual weight on your shoulders, like every step forward stirred resistance, like every glimmer of peace was quickly followed by conflict. But what you've faced hasn't been random or personal in the way you once thought. They weren't fighting you. They were fighting what chose you. See, you were never just a name, a face, a person minding their own business. You were a vessel, marked by something ancient, something eternal, something that could not be manipulated or owned. Long before you knew who you were, they did. They recognized your frequency, your divine imprint, and that terrified them. Because your presence doesn't just speak, it vibrates. Your energy doesn't blend in, it exposes. You don't follow the patterns, you break them. And so they did everything in their power to disconnect you from your source. They tried to bury your identity beneath doubt, drown your voice beneath noise, and derail your purpose with endless distraction. Not because of your appearance, not because of your past, but because of what lives within you. Something they could never recreate. The light in your spirit, the truth in your words, the force in your silence. It threatened the illusions they built to maintain control. You were born into a world that fears the awakened, because the awakened do not conform, they do not submit, and more dangerously, they ignite others. That's what they feared most. Not just your awakening, but the ripple effect it would cause. The pressure you felt wasn't punishment, it was proof. The resistance you encountered wasn't rejection, it was recognition. Every attack on your soul was a desperate attempt to stop something they could never touch. Because when the universe chooses someone, it doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for credentials. It simply says, you. And that choice alone shatters systems. They didn't want to erase you. They wanted to erase the echo of something greater moving through you. But what they failed to realize is that the same pressure they used to try to break you only refined you. What they saw as a threat was actually a prophecy. And now that you're starting to remember, they're the ones who should be afraid. The greatest weapon they ever used against you wasn't force, and it wasn't fear. It was doubt. Not the loud kind that crashes in like thunder, but the quiet, creeping kind that whispers from within. They didn't have to cage your body or silence your voice outright. All they had to do was convince you to doubt yourself. Slowly, subtly, skillfully. Every time you felt deeply, they called you too sensitive. Every time you spoke truth, they labeled you too intense. They wrapped your intuition in shame and painted your light as a threat. Why? Because they knew from the very beginning what you didn't yet realize. You were powerful. So powerful, in fact, that they had to trick you into dimming your own brilliance. You see, they couldn't extinguish your fire, so they handed you the extinguisher and made you believe it was necessary. They taught you to second-guess your instincts, to shrink in rooms that couldn't hold your spirit, to apologize for the very energy that made you divine. And while you wrestled with your worth, they watched silently, because for them, every moment you questioned your own light was a victory. They didn't celebrate publicly. No, it was quieter than that. The kind of triumph that happens when a soul forgets its own shine. But the truth is, you were never too much. You were exactly enough to shake their foundation. Your fire made them uncomfortable not because it was wrong, but because it revealed their shadows. Your depth wasn't a defect. It was a mirror they couldn't stand to look into. And every time you held back to make others comfortable, you gave them room to breathe. That was their only power over you, convincing you to reject what made you rare. But what they didn't count on was that one day you'd begin to remember that the voice inside you, the one they tried so hard to drown, would start to rise again. That you'd begin to see through the lies, the programming, the labels. And when a chosen one remembers their light, the illusion breaks. That's what's happening now. The fog is lifting. The weapon of doubt is losing its grip. And the moment you reclaim your light, unapologetically, fully, fiercely, they'll have nothing left to hold over you. Because your belief in yourself was always the key, and now you're taking it back. There was a time you believed that being alone meant you were broken, that the silence was punishment, that the distance from others was a sign that you didn't belong. But what you thought was rejection was never that. The universe wasn't pushing you away. It was tuning you in. See, when you're chosen, you're not built for the noise of the crowd or the comfort of blending in. You're not here to echo back the world's fears. You're here to speak with a voice that only silence could shape. That's why it felt like everyone left. That's why you walked through seasons of emptiness, wondering if you had done something wrong, questioning your worth when no one seemed to understand you. But in truth, the crowd was never your destination. It was your distraction. And so the universe, in its wisdom, stripped it all away. The friendships, the noise, the applause, the chaos, it all had to go. Not to hurt you, but to reveal you. Because only in stillness could your true frequency emerge. Only in solitude could your spirit remember its signal. You weren't being punished. You were being protected from interference. The world is loud, saturated with projections, expectations, and voices that don't belong to you. And if you had stayed in that noise, you would have become an echo instead of a signal. So the universe cleared the room. The silence felt sharp, the loneliness unbearable at times. But what you didn't know then is that the solitude was sacred. It was the chamber where you were rebuilt, not with external validation, but with internal knowing. It was in that void that you grew roots, that your energy became unshakable, that your vision became clear. The people who left weren't meant to recognize you because they were never tuned to your frequency. You weren't too much. You were simply vibrating at a level they couldn't understand. And rather than rise, they retreated. But that retreat was necessary. Because you weren't being pushed out. You were being pulled up. So stop mourning what walked away. Stop questioning the silence. Your isolation wasn't abandonment. It was activation. You were being aligned, refined, and prepared. And now, you're returning, not empty, not lost, but fully charged. And this time, you're not looking for where you fit in. You're stepping in to command the space you were always meant to occupy. If there's one thing they feared most, it wasn't your strength, your voice, or even your brilliance. It was your focus. Because a focused chosen one is a force of nature, a living storm that can't be stopped. And they knew that the moment you aligned your energy, your clarity would burn through every illusion they built. So they launched a silent war, not on your body, but on your attention. They didn't need to destroy you. They only needed to keep you distracted. That's why every time you found stillness, something would crash in. Drama, chaos, confusion. People you'd outgrown resurfaced. Old wounds reopened. New problems appeared out of nowhere, not because you were unlucky, but because you were dangerous. They buried you in noise, not to defeat you, but to exhaust you. Because when you're busy putting out fires, you can't build the future you were sent to create. They threw emotional roller coasters into your path. They filled your days with fake urgencies, empty obligations, and people who drained you, hoping you'd stay in a loop of reaction instead of rising with intention. And for a while it worked. You thought being tired all the time meant something was wrong with you. You blamed yourself for being unmotivated, scattered, overwhelmed. But the truth is, you weren't broken. Your sacred energy was being siphoned off by distractions designed to keep you small. And now you're seeing it. Every time you pull your focus back to yourself, the resistance intensifies. The noise grows louder, the demands get heavier. That's not coincidence. It's the system trying to hold on. Because once you stop feeding the distractions, once you stop apologizing for choosing peace, once you remember that your time, your mind, your energy are sacred, that's when you become unstoppable. The storm isn't around you. It's been within you, waiting for you to silence the noise and reclaim the signal. Your focus is your power. Your attention is your currency. And when you spend it wisely, on purpose, on healing, on truth, the whole illusion begins to fall apart. You were under spiritual siege, but now you see. And once a chosen one becomes aware of their focus, they become a weapon the system can no longer control. For so long you believed your pain was personal, like you were cursed, like you were somehow broken in ways others weren't. You carried the weight of trauma that seemed too heavy for a heart your size, and you asked yourself, why me? But the truth is, your pain was never random. It was programmed. It was woven into your path with precision, not to punish you, but to prevent you from remembering who you are. They struck early, before you had language for your wounds, before you could defend your soul. Chaos, betrayal, abandonment. They weren't just experiences. They were calculated moves in a long game designed to confuse your identity, to hijack your power, to convince you that you were never enough. Because here's what they knew. If you ever looked past the pain, you'd find purpose. If you ever questioned why you suffered so deeply while others seemed to float through life asleep, you'd begin to wake up. And waking up? That's the system's greatest fear. They wanted you half alive, functional but fragmented. They didn't want you to crumble. No, they needed you standing, but disoriented, busy surviving instead of remembering. And for a while, you believed it. You wore their shame like your own. You called your scars burdens instead of blueprints. But that belief, that your pain was proof of weakness, was the real prison. The truth is, they didn't come for you because you were fragile. They came because you were formidable. Because your light, fully activated, would unravel everything they've built on fear. They hoped to break your spirit before it broke their illusion. But what they didn't expect was your resilience. That you would rise, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. That you would trace your trauma not to shame, but to clarity. And once you do that, once you see that every scar was a signal, every loss a lesson, every heartbreak a turning point, they lose their grip. Because a chosen one who stops running from their pain becomes unstoppable. And the very thing they tried to use to silence you becomes the force that wakes you up, sets you free, and shakes the world. You weren't cursed, you were conditioned. And now you're breaking the code. At first they mocked you, laughed at how deeply you felt, how boldly you moved, how differently you saw the world. You were too much, too intense, too weird. They rolled their eyes when you spoke your truth, dismissed your vision as fantasy. But then something changed. Quietly, they started mimicking you. The way you talked, the way you dressed, the ideas you once whispered in shadows now echoed in their mouths. And you noticed. The very energy they rejected was suddenly being repackaged, worn like a costume. But don't be fooled. This isn't admiration, it's imitation. And it never quite lands. Because while they may try to wear your light, they'll never carry its source. They can copy your style, but they can't access your frequency. That frequency wasn't taught, bought, or borrowed. It was earned, forged in silence, sculpted through solitude, refined through pain. You didn't become who you are by following trends. You became this by surviving what would have shattered most. And that's something no one can steal. What you carry isn't surface, it's soul. It's the fire that burned quietly when no one was clapping. It's the clarity that came after losing everything you thought defined you. That's the difference. They perform, but you became. While they were watching, you were transforming. While they were collecting applause, you were building depth. And now they wonder why they can copy everything you do and still not get the same results. It's because your essence can't be duplicated. You don't just influence, you ignite. You don't walk into a room seeking attention. You shift the atmosphere by being authentically aligned. And that alignment, that's what exposes the performance. That's why no matter how closely they mirror you, something still feels hollow. Because charisma can be practiced, but energy tells the truth. So let them try. Let them mirror and mimic. But never dim yourself to avoid being copied. Instead, shine louder. Because every time they try to replicate what lives in your bones, they remind the world that you were never a reflection. You were the blueprint. They can imitate your outer world all they want, but they will never carry the storms you survived to become this version of you. You are the origin, not the echo. And no one can fake the fire you walked through to remember your name. There were moments in your life when everything fell apart. Plans crumbled, people walked away, doors slammed shut before you even had the chance to step through. And in those moments, you questioned everything. You wondered if you were cursed, if the universe had turned against you, if maybe you just weren't enough. But now you're beginning to see the truth. You weren't cursed. You were protected. What felt like rejection was actually redirection. What broke your heart was never meant to break your spirit. It was meant to shield it. The closed doors weren't punishment, they were divine interventions, placed firmly in your path to keep you from settling for less than what you were born for. Because chosen ones don't just receive blessings, they require alignment. And anything out of sync with that alignment, no matter how beautiful it looked on the surface, had to go. The relationships that collapsed weren't failures, they were filters. They were never designed to carry the full weight of your calling. The opportunities that vanished weren't lost. They were distractions dressed as rewards, veering you away from a higher path you couldn't yet see. And the delays, the painful pauses, those were grace in disguise. The universe wasn't withholding, it was preparing. It was saying, not this, not them, not yet. Because your path is sacred ground, and not everything, or everyone, is meant to walk it with you. But when you didn't know that, it felt like pain. You grieved the people who left, the dreams that didn't take flight, the versions of your life that never came to be. Yet now, if you look closer, you'll notice a pattern. Every collapse made space for clarity. Every loss removed a layer of illusion. Every detour led you closer to your true self. You were never being punished. You were being positioned. The universe doesn't gamble with rare energy, it guards it. And sometimes that protection looks like loss, feels like heartbreak, sounds like silence. But that's only because your destiny requires more than comfort. It demands truth, power, purpose. And now that you're seeing with open eyes, you realize that what didn't work out was working for you all along. And every no that shattered you back then was a sacred yes in disguise. From the outside, it looked like your battles were with circumstances, lost jobs, broken relationships, missed chances, but the real war was never out there. The battlefield was always in your mind. The system never truly needed to take your possessions, your status, or even your voice. It only needed to hijack your perception. Because once it controlled how you saw yourself, it didn't need chains or bars. You'd hold yourself back. You'd silence your own truth. You'd believe the lies they planted so long ago that they began to sound like your own thoughts. You're not ready. You're too broken. No one will understand you. These weren't your beliefs. They were installations. Subtle, persistent programming slipped into your psyche through culture, childhood wounds, media, and manipulated environments. They whispered just loud enough to steer your thoughts, not to destroy you completely, but to keep you compliant, numb, small. They didn't want you enlightened. They wanted you entertained, exhausted, and emotionally overstimulated. Because the moment you think clearly, you see the game. And the moment a chosen one sees the game, they stop playing it. That's why your clarity has always been under attack, why confusion followed you, why your peace was always interrupted. Because an awakened mind is a threat to every illusion built on lies. But here's what they didn't expect. You're awakening. Slowly, subtly, painfully at times, but undeniably, you're remembering. You're questioning your own thoughts, your old beliefs, and realizing most of them aren't even yours. The fog is lifting. The veil is cracking. And with every moment of self-awareness, the old programs lose their grip. You are no longer walking through life half asleep, blindly following the narrative. You're rewriting it, reclaiming your voice, restoring your vision. And as that inner light returns, so does your power. Not the kind that dominates, but the kind that liberates. The kind that sees through manipulation, refuses self-betrayal, and stands tall in truth. And now, every step you take in clarity dismantles what was built on your confusion. That's why they feared your awakening. not because of what you have, but because of what you remember. Because when a chosen one takes back their mind, everything that tried to control them begins to fall apart. And that's exactly what's happening now. You spent so long bracing for the storm, waiting for things to get worse, preparing for the next wave of pain, the next trial, the next collapse. But what you didn't realize is that the storm you were fearing was you. You weren't meant to hide from the chaos. You were born to become it. Not chaos in the sense of destruction, but in the sense of disruption. A divine, untamable force sent to shake the foundations of everything built on lies. You weren't made to survive the storm. You were made to shift it, to awaken the world by your presence alone. And that's what they feared most. Not your voice, not your story, but your energy. Unapologetic, undeniable, and completely out of their control. You've been told your whole life to tone it down, to be quieter, easier, more digestible. But that was never your role. You weren't sent here to be comfortable. You were sent to make systems tremble. You were designed to carry fire in a world addicted to shadows, to bring clarity where confusion reigned, to walk boldly into spaces that never welcomed you and change the atmosphere without asking for permission. That's why your presence has always felt heavy, because it carries impact. And now, the truth is rising in you like a tidal wave. You're not waiting for something powerful to arrive. You are the arrival. You are the shift. You are the thunder that breaks silence. And as you step into this truth, as you embody the fullness of who you were always meant to be, the world around you will react. Some will distance themselves. Some will try to dim you again. But don't take it personally. Take it as confirmation, because a storm doesn't ask permission to shake the sky. It just moves. And that's what you must do now. Move with purpose. Speak with clarity. Rise without apology. You are no longer a fragment. You are a force. No longer asking, when will the change come? But realizing, I am the change. So stop waiting. Stop shrinking. Stop bracing. The storm isn't coming. It's already here. And it's wearing your name. The moment everything begins to shift, not outside of you, but within. The moment when doubt gives way to remembrance, and hesitation bows to alignment. You've walked through fire, through silence, through the storm of your own becoming, and now, you're standing in the truth of who you were always meant to be. This isn't the end of a message. It's the beginning of a movement, a return, a rising. You're not here by accident. You were guided here because the universe knew it was time. Time for you to remember. So let this be the turning point. The moment you stop playing small, the moment you stop shrinking to fit what never deserved you. From this moment on, walk like you know who you are. Speak like you carry a frequency the world can't duplicate. Move like you were born to awaken others, because you were. And if this message spoke to something deep inside you, if you felt the truth crack open in your chest, if your spirit stirred while your eyes read these words, then know this wasn't just inspiration. This was activation. So thank you for showing up, for listening, for remembering. You are not alone. You are part of something bigger, something ancient, something unstoppable. If this message awakened something in you, help us spread the light. Subscribe to this channel, drop a comment below, and share this with someone who needs it. Every like, every share, every interaction sends this signal out to the other chosen ones who are still waiting to wake up. Because when we rise together, they fall faster. If you're watching this, it's not a coincidence. You were led here by something greater, by a feeling, a pull in your spirit, a restlessness you couldn't explain. You've likely sensed a shift around you, something unseen yet undeniable. The air feels heavier. Your dreams are more vivid. The people around you seem different. What if I told you this isn't paranoia, but perception? April 2025 is a turning point, a month when your spiritual senses will sharpen and your vision will no longer be limited to the physical world. This video is not just information. It is a call, an inner echo reminding you of who you truly are and why you're here. Your eyes, both physical and spiritual, will begin to receive messages from places you've long forgotten. The natural world, silent spaces, subtle glances, and invisible forces moving around you. This month will challenge your heart, confront your beliefs, and awaken your soul. You will see what others ignore, and once you see, you cannot unsee. Welcome to the awakening of vision. Welcome to April 2025. Not all eyes were created equal. While many look, only a few truly see. For those who are spiritually attuned, those often referred to as the chosen, vision transcends the boundaries of the physical world. Their eyes do more than capture light. They interpret energy, decode silence, and read the vibrations of a world most never notice. As April 2025 unfolds, this ability will not only intensify, it will awaken in ways that may be both startling and sacred. You may begin to perceive things you once brushed off as tricks of the light or coincidences. A shimmer in the corner of your vision, a fleeting shadow that vanishes before you can focus, a sudden brightness in someone's eyes that wasn't there before. These are not accidents. These are glimpses into the unseen, signals from the spiritual realm responding to the frequency rising within you. Your vision is being recalibrated, not just to observe the world, but to discern it. What others dismiss, you will feel deeply. Where others walk unaware, you will tread with intuition. You may notice emotional shifts in people before they speak, sense tension in a room before words are exchanged, or feel a powerful presence in moments of quiet solitude. This is the mark of a soul stepping into higher awareness, a soul no longer content with surface-level living. The challenge, however, is that such vision is not always easy to carry. To see through illusions means confronting truths that others avoid. You may find beauty where no one else sees it, but you will also recognize deception wrapped in smiles, heaviness masked as light, and spiritual warfare hidden in mundane moments. The world around you will not change overnight, but your relationship to it will. Being chosen to see differently is not about superiority. It is about responsibility. The responsibility to remain awake in a world lulled to sleep. The responsibility to trust what your eyes show you, even when it makes you uncomfortable. Because from now on, your sight is not just a function, it is a calling. And once your spiritual vision activates, you can no longer pretend to be blind. You were not meant to live in darkness. You were created to walk in the light and to recognize the divine, even when it's hidden in shadow. April is not merely the fourth month of the year. It is not just a passing point on a calendar or a routine season of transition. For those attuned to the spiritual, April 2025 is a portal, a sacred threshold between what was and what is becoming. It is a divine invitation to step out of old energies, outdated beliefs, and stagnant ways of being, and to walk into a realm of higher awareness, deeper truth, and inner transformation. This month holds the vibration of awakening, and with it, a subtle but undeniable pressure will begin to rise in your soul. A pressure not to fear, but to listen to. It is not chaos, but alignment. As the days of April unfold, you may sense that time feels different, slower in some moments, urgently fast in others. You may feel pulled in two directions, one that wants to cling to the comfort of the known, and another that urges you into unfamiliar, yet magnetic territory. This tension is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that you are standing at the edge of something greater. And the choice to cross that edge must come from within. This portal will not open with loud signs or dramatic spectacles. It will open quietly, through reflection, through stillness, through a series of subtle moments that stir your spirit. The nudge to take a different path, the sudden loss of interest in things that used to matter, the urge to clear space in your home, your heart, your relationships. These are not random urges. They are whispers from your higher self, asking you to make room for what is to come. And what is coming? Truth, clarity, realignment with your soul's purpose. But with truth comes the shedding of illusion, and with clarity often comes discomfort. You may be asked to release versions of yourself that no longer serve your becoming. You may be led to face aspects of your life you've kept hidden even from yourself. The portal of April does not open to everyone. It opens to those who are willing to walk through with open eyes, open hearts, and open hands. Because once you step through, there is no going back. But there is also no greater freedom than living in truth. Nature has never stopped speaking. It is we who forgot how to listen. In April 2025, that silence will break. The natural world, always alive and humming with divine intelligence, will become one of the clearest and most profound channels through which messages are delivered to the spiritually awakened. For those whose inner eyes are opening, trees, winds, birds, and even light itself will begin to speak a language beyond words, a language of symbols, sensations, and sacred synchronicity. You may find yourself drawn inexplicably to certain places in nature, a quiet tree that seems to offer peace, a patch of sunlight that feels like a blessing, a gust of wind that arrives in perfect harmony with your thoughts. These aren't coincidences. They are spiritual responses, confirmation that something beyond the visible is engaging with you, walking with you. Pay attention to these encounters. A bird landing nearby and locking eyes with you, a dog barking in the presence of someone you weren't sure about, or a sudden downpour as you wrestle with a decision. These are signs. They are not random events. They are part of the universe's language, gently nudging you toward clarity. The elements will become mirrors, revealing both what is within you and what surrounds you. The sky may show unusual colors or cloud formations that reflect your emotional state. Water might carry messages through dreams, or a sudden longing to sit near a river or ocean. Even the silence in nature may feel full, as though it's whispering something only your spirit can hear. These moments, though easily dismissed by others, will feel deeply significant to you, because they are. To truly receive these signs, you must slow down. Be still. Observe without needing to explain. Not all truth comes through logic. Some of it arrives through feeling, through repetition, through resonance. If a particular animal keeps appearing in your path, look up its symbolic meaning. If the wind stirs just as you speak your fears aloud, pause and listen. April is a month where the veil thins, and the sacred speaks softly but steadily through creation. Let the earth become your sacred text. Let the wind be your prayer. Let the animals, the weather, the movement of leaves, all remind you that you are never alone, and that the universe is always, always speaking. As the spiritual energy intensifies in April 2025, the changes will not only stir within you, they will ripple through your relationships. This is one of the most profound and often most painful aspects of awakening. When your soul begins to vibrate at a higher frequency, not everyone around you will resonate with that shift. Some connections will deepen beautifully, while others will begin to dissolve, quietly or abruptly, as if a curtain has been drawn back, revealing truths that were always there but went unnoticed. You may begin to feel out of sync with people you once felt close to. Conversations that used to bring joy might now feel forced or draining. You might sense subtle tension, misalignment, or even discomfort around certain individuals. This is not your imagination. This is energy no longer matching. And though it may feel confusing or even heartbreaking, this natural separation is not a punishment. It is a form of spiritual protection. Relationships that were built on illusion, obligation, guilt, or outdated versions of yourself will begin to unravel. The masks people wear, whether consciously or unconsciously, will begin to fall. Their words may remain the same, but their energy will tell you everything. You'll start to notice the discrepancy between intention and action, between appearance and truth. And even if no harsh words are exchanged, something inside you will whisper, "This no longer belongs." Letting go is never easy, especially when it involves longtime friends, family, or partners. But clinging to what no longer aligns with your soul will only hold you back from stepping fully into who you are becoming. Some people were meant to walk with you only for a season, not forever. Honor what you shared, grieve if you must, but release with love. What you lose in comfort, you gain in authenticity. And here's the beauty of it. As the old falls away, space is created for something new, for connections that mirror your growth, that nourish your spirit, that challenge you to stay aligned and awake. Relationships rooted in truth, not performance, in shared frequency, not shared history. This is not the end of love. It is the beginning of real love, the kind that sees you, supports your path, and walks beside your becoming. In the stillness of April 2025, as the outer world shifts and relationships realign, an even more powerful transformation will begin within you. Your inner world, the sacred hidden terrain of thoughts, memories, and buried emotions, will rise to the surface, no longer content to remain in the shadows. This is not an attack. It is not regression. It is a divine invitation to meet the parts of yourself you've long ignored and to finally make peace with them. You may begin to feel waves of emotion with no clear origin. Grief, fear, sadness, even anger from years past. Childhood memories may surface without warning. Dreams might become vivid, intense, or strangely symbolic. People you haven't thought about in years may reappear in your mind. Don't resist these moments. They are not here to haunt you. They're here to heal you. These fragments of your past are not interruptions. They are messages. They're pieces of yourself returning, asking to be seen, to be held, to be loved back into wholeness. Many of us are taught to avoid discomfort, to suppress pain, to move forward and never look back. But true transformation does not bypass the wound. It walks through it. The sadness you feel may not be a sign of weakness, but a sign that something sacred is being released. Emotional pain, when honored, becomes the doorway to deeper freedom. This inner unveiling may also show up in your body. You might experience tension in your chest or gut, headaches, changes in appetite or sleep. These are not random symptoms. They are physical echoes of emotional truths asking for attention. Your body and its wisdom is helping you purge what no longer serves. In this process, gentleness is your greatest ally. You are not required to fix everything at once. You are simply being asked to stay present. Breathe, reflect, write, cry if you need to. Allow yourself to feel what arises without judgment. Healing is not about becoming someone else. It's about returning to who you were before the world told you to hide. Within the quiet of this month, you will rediscover your strength. Not the strength of endurance, but the strength of vulnerability. And through this inner tending, you'll begin to see the parts of you once rejected were never broken. They were sacred all along. As April progresses, your energetic field, the invisible layer of your being that absorbs, processes, and transmits vibrations, will become more sensitive than ever. This heightened sensitivity is not a flaw. It is not fragility. It is the natural result of a soul that is awakening, refining, and tuning itself to a higher frequency. You are no longer walking through the world blindly. You are feeling it, reading it, responding to it with a depth of awareness that many have not yet touched. You may find yourself suddenly exhausted after social interactions, even with those you love. You might walk into a room and instantly feel heavy, uneasy, or out of place, without knowing why. Certain conversations may feel empty or overstimulating, even painful. Crowds may overwhelm you. Sounds might feel louder. Lights too bright. This is your energetic body alerting you. Something has changed. You are no longer able to tolerate environments, people, or patterns that drain your spirit. What you used to ignore or endure now feels unbearable, not because you've grown weaker, but because you've grown clearer. Your soul is rejecting what no longer serves it, and your body is responding with truth. Honor that response. This isn't a call to isolate, it's a call to listen. Solitude, quiet spaces, nature, deep breathing, meditation. These will become sacred tools, helping you reset and restore. Not because you are escaping, but because you are recalibrating. In a world that often rushes and numbs, your sensitivity is a sacred rebellion. a signal that you are moving in harmony with your inner truth. It's important to protect your energy now, not in fear, but with intention. Not everyone or everything is meant to walk with you in this season. That's not judgment, it's discernment. Begin to notice what expands you and what contracts you, who leaves you feeling seen and who leaves you feeling small, where your energy flows freely and where it withers. Your sensitivity is not a burden. It's a gift, a compass, a guidepost leading you back to what is real. Don't ignore it, don't push through, respect it, because the more you honor your energetic boundaries, the more clearly you'll hear the voice of your spirit, and the more peaceful and powerful your path will become. Though the path of awakening can feel isolating at times, you were never meant to walk it alone. As your inner world transforms and your vision sharpens, you may notice something quietly miraculous beginning to take shape. A new community, one not built on proximity, but on soul resonance, will start to form around you. This is not a community of convenience. It is a sacred gathering of like-hearted souls, drawn together by unseen threads of shared purpose, mutual recognition, and spiritual alignment. These people may enter your life in unexpected ways. A brief conversation with a stranger that leaves a lasting impact. A book recommendation that leads to an important connection. A name that keeps surfacing until you finally pay attention. You'll begin to notice synchronicities, gentle nudges from the universe guiding you into encounters that feel strangely familiar, as if you've known these individuals before, perhaps in another lifetime. And perhaps you have. This community will not be based on appearances, status, or social performance. It will be rooted in truth, energy, and inner knowing. You will feel it in your body, a sense of safety, of recognition, of peace. In their presence, you won't have to explain your journey, your visions, your sensitivity. They will simply understand, because they too have walked through fire to stand in light. These connections will uplift you, challenge you, and remind you that your path, while personal, is part of something far larger, a collective awakening. The loneliness you once felt will begin to fade, not because you've returned to the crowd, but because you've found your soul family. And within this sacred circle, you'll experience the power of shared intention, of spiritual collaboration, of hearts beating to the same quiet rhythm. Do not rush this formation. Let it happen naturally. Trust the timings, trust the intuitive pulls, trust the soft yes your spirit gives when you meet someone who feels like home. This new community will not replace your journey, it will strengthen it. Together you will hold space for one another. Together you will rise. Because in this new world we are entering, no one ascends alone. And as you step more fully into your truth, you will see the right people will arrive, not to complete you, but to remind you that you were never alone to begin with. April 2025 will not be easy, but nothing truly transformative ever is. This month is not meant to break you, but to remake you. Not to punish, but to purify. What your eyes begin to see, both in the world around you and deep within yourself, will stretch you, challenge you, and ultimately free you. This is the season where illusions fall away, where masks dissolve and where truth steps forward, raw and unfiltered. There may be endings, but with every ending comes sacred space for a new beginning, a new vision, a new alignment with who you were always meant to be. What if the very fact that you're listening to this, right here, right now, is not an accident, but a divine setup? What if every tear you've cried, every door that shut in your face, every moment of silence from heaven wasn't random, but a training ground for this very second? This isn't just another message. This is a divine appointment. Heaven has been watching your journey. God has been listening to your midnight cries, witnessing the battles you fought in silence. And now you stand at the edge of a decision that will define the rest of your life. Your do it or die hour. Before we go any further, take a moment to anchor this moment in faith. Click that like button and subscribe to this channel so you never miss a word of what God is speaking in this season. And in the comments type, "I'm ready," if your spirit is already stirring, because this message is only the beginning. Together, let's go deeper. Let's unlock the purpose that's been calling your name. Let's take the final step toward your divine destiny. There comes a moment in every believer's life where the path splits in two, and no one else can choose for you. That moment is now. This isn't just a fork in the road. It's a divine crossroads, the kind that shifts the course of your entire future. On one side lies everything God has prepared for you. The breakthrough, the promise, the calling, the purpose. On the other side is regret, the kind that lingers not because you didn't believe, but because you hesitated when it mattered most. Throughout Scripture, we see moments like this repeated. Esther had to decide whether she would risk everything to stand before the king. Moses stood before the Red Sea, caught between Pharaoh's army and God's silence. Joshua stood at the edge of the Promised Land, watching a generation fade into the wilderness because they said, "Not now, God. We're not ready." They weren't rejected because they were unworthy. They were rejected because they refused to move when the moment arrived. They hesitated. They chose safety over obedience, and they lost everything God had waiting on the other side of their yes. The truth is, heaven doesn't move on human timing. Divine doors don't stay open forever. Ecclesiastes tells us there is a time and a season for every purpose under heaven. And when that divine moment comes, you either step through the door or watch it close behind you. That's why you've felt the pressure lately. That's why the warfare intensified. The enemy isn't fighting your past. He's terrified of your future. And deep down, you can feel it. Something inside you knows this moment is different. This isn't just another video. This isn't just another message. This is the call that reaches beyond comfort and into destiny. Let this truth shake you. Delayed obedience is still disobedience. God doesn't just test your faith, He tests your timing. Will you trust Him enough to move when everything around you says wait? Or will you talk yourself out of the breakthrough you've prayed so long to receive? Faith without movement is just a wish. But faith in motion, that's where miracles happen. You've been praying, waiting, asking for signs. But the sign is here. The window is open. And now the choice is yours. Step into the promise, or stand still and watch someone else take your place. Just like God told Esther, if you remain silent, deliverance will come from another place. His will always moves forward. The question is, will it move forward with you or without you? This is your moment of decision, the final crossroads. Choose obedience and live in purpose, or choose hesitation and live with what could have been. It's easy to look back on your life and see only the heartbreak. The nights you cried yourself to sleep, wondering if God had forgotten you. The closed doors, the broken relationships, the dreams that slipped through your fingers. Maybe you've even asked the question, God, why me? And maybe for a long time, you believed the silence meant rejection, that the pain was punishment. But what if the opposite is true? What if every valley you've walked through wasn't punishment, but preparation? The truth that many never realize is that God never wastes pain. He never wastes a single tear. The trials you faced were not a sign of divine distance. They were a mark of divine investment. Every setback, every betrayal, every moment that brought you to your knees was shaping something eternal in you. Like a master craftsman, God was chiseling away everything that couldn't go with you into the next season, not to break you, but to build you. To refine you into the person who can carry the weight of what He's about to release. Look at the lives of those we admire in Scripture. Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, wrongfully imprisoned, and yet, he was being prepared to save nations. David, anointed as king while still a shepherd boy, spent years running for his life before ever sitting on the throne. Even Jesus, the Son of God, endured the wilderness before He walked in power. Preparation always precedes purpose. So the question is not why did it happen? The question is, what was it shaping in me? That season of financial struggle taught you to trust God as your provider. That heartbreak showed you that His love is the only thing that never fails. The isolation stripped away the noise so you could hear His voice more clearly. What felt like punishment was actually pruning. He wasn't trying to hurt you. He was making room for new fruit to grow. And now here you are, still standing, maybe bruised, maybe battle-worn, but stronger than you were before. And you didn't come through it just to survive. You came through it so you could lead, inspire, and carry the mantle God has reserved for you. The pain wasn't pointless. It was prophetic. Isaiah 43:19 says, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" What God is birthing in you now could only be planted in the soil softened by struggle. Don't despise your past. Don't mourn the road you had to walk. Because everything you went through was preparing you for this very moment, the moment where pain meets purpose, where trials give way to triumph. You weren't being punished. You were being positioned. There's a battle happening right now, but it's not out there in the world. It's inside you. And it's not a fight for your comfort or your convenience. It's a war for your calling. And the most dangerous part? The enemy doesn't need to destroy you. He just needs to distract you, delay you, convince you to doubt what God has already spoken over your life. You see, the most effective lies are the ones that sound like your own voice. I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. What if I fail? These aren't passing thoughts. They are strategic attacks designed to paralyze your faith. The enemy knows he can't steal your calling, so he works overtime to convince you to give it up yourself. That voice of fear, that inner critic, that constant hesitation. It's not you. It's not God. It's the enemy whispering lies just loud enough for you to believe them. But here's the truth. He only attacks what threatens him. The enemy isn't targeting you because of where you've been. He's attacking you because of where you're going. He sees the anointing on your life. He sees the purpose burning in your spirit. And he knows that if you ever step fully into it, hell loses ground. Think about Moses. When God called him at the burning bush, Moses didn't shout with excitement. He hesitated. Who am I that I should go? That was the voice of inadequacy. The same voice many of us hear when God asks us to do something bold. But God wasn't looking for perfection. He was looking for obedience, just like He's looking for yours. The enemy's greatest weapon isn't persecution, it's paralysis. If he can keep you stuck in your mind, replaying your failures, questioning your worth, doubting your timing, he wins without lifting a sword. Because as long as you stay still, your destiny stays locked. But today, you draw the line. Today, you expose the lie for what it is. A last-ditch effort to stop you before you rise. Scripture says in 2 Corinthians 10:5 that we are to take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ. That's not a gentle suggestion. It's a battle command. So what thoughts have you let run wild? What fears have you allowed to build walls around your promise? It's time to silence them. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now. Because the longer you listen to the wrong voice, the harder it becomes to hear the right one. Your breakthrough is not waiting on the absence of fear. It's waiting on the presence of faith. Faith that moves forward anyway. Faith that doesn't need all the answers. Faith that says, even if I feel afraid, I will not let fear decide my future. The war may be within, but so is the victory. And the moment you stop believing the enemy's lie, you start stepping into God's truth. And that's when everything changes. Faith sounds beautiful in sermons, comforting in devotionals, and poetic in songs. But when it's tested in real life, it always demands one thing: action. Real faith doesn't sit still. It doesn't just hope, dream, or wait indefinitely. It moves, even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. Because the truth is, the miracle you've been praying for is already waiting. But it only responds to motion. From Genesis to Revelation, God's power is consistently released after someone obeys. Moses didn't see the Red Sea part while standing still. He had to raise his staff. Joshua didn't watch Jericho's walls collapse just by believing. They had to walk around those walls day after day. The widow's oil didn't multiply until she began to pour it, and Peter didn't walk on water until he stepped out of the boat. The breakthrough never comes before the step. It comes because of it. That's the pattern of God. He partners with your movement. He honors your obedience. But too often we're waiting for Him to move first, while He's waiting for us to simply take the first step. We say, "God, show me the way." And He says, "Start walking, and I'll show you step by step." Miracles are not reserved for the cautious. They're reserved for the courageous. You've been praying for change, asking for confirmation, waiting for the perfect timing. But let's be honest, perfect conditions rarely come. If Noah waited for the rain before building the ark, the flood would have drowned him. If Abraham waited until he understood everything, he never would have left his homeland. And if Jesus waited until it was safe, the cross would have never been carried. So what are you waiting for? James 2:26 says, "Faith without works is dead." That doesn't mean faith is weak without action. It means faith doesn't exist without action. If you truly believe God called you, then your movement must reflect it. The idea of waiting on God has become a comfort zone for many. But the reality is, God might be waiting on you. The miracle is not delayed because heaven is undecided. It's delayed because faith has been frozen in fear, overthinking, and hesitation. But what if your obedience is the key that unlocks the next chapter? What if God is simply waiting for you to stretch your hand toward what seems impossible? So don't just believe for the healing, move toward it. Don't just pray for breakthrough, walk like it's already done. Speak like it's on the way, build like it's coming. Sow like the harvest is certain, walk like the walls have already come down. Because here's the truth, the miracle is already written into your story, but it's waiting on a movement only you can make. And once you move in faith, heaven moves with you. No one steps into their calling without a cost. Every promise God makes comes with a price, and not everyone is willing to pay it. We love the idea of miracles, open doors, and divine favor, but few of us are prepared for the sacrifices those things require. Because to walk in everything God has for you, you have to leave something behind. Abraham had to leave his home, his family, and everything familiar to step into a promise he couldn't yet see. Ruth had to walk away from her past and cling to Naomi, not knowing what her future would hold. Esther had to risk her life to save her people. Even Jesus paid the ultimate cost, not just in suffering but in surrender. And that's the pattern. Before the crown, there is always a cross. God never hides the cost. In fact, Jesus said clearly in Luke 9:23, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me." Following Him doesn't mean comfort. It means commitment. It means choosing purpose over popularity, obedience over ease, surrender over control. The truth is, many people never walk into their destiny, not because they lack faith, but because they're not willing to let go of what they must leave behind. The calling is too high to carry along your fears, your pride, your bitterness, or your backup plans. To step into something greater, you must be willing to release what's good, what's familiar, even what once worked, because it can't go with you into the next season. Yes, it will cost you. It will cost you your comfort zone. It might cost you relationships that no longer align with your purpose. It might cost you time, energy, and the safety of a predictable life. But here's what you need to hear. What you receive in return far outweighs the price. The reward is the kind of peace that surpasses understanding. It's the kind of joy that doesn't depend on circumstances. It's the favor of God that opens doors no man can shut. It's the legacy that outlives you, the impact that echoes through generations, the fulfillment of knowing you did not just exist, but that you lived for something eternal. And here's the part that shakes the soul. If you don't say yes, God will still fulfill His purpose. He'll just find someone else who will. Like Mordecai told Esther, "If you remain silent, deliverance will come from another place." The opportunity may not come again, so you must decide, is the price too high, or is your calling too valuable to walk away from? Because once you've tasted what God can do, once you've glimpsed the life He's designed for you, you'll understand. The cost is real, but the reward is so much greater. At some point, the window of opportunity starts to close. Not because God stops loving you, but because opportunity has an expiration date. And for some, that moment is right now. This isn't about pressure, it's about purpose. The call on your life has always been there, gently whispering, quietly waiting. But there's a shift in the atmosphere now. Heaven isn't whispering anymore. It's shouting. Now is the time. This is the one that decides the next chapter of your life. You're not here by chance. You didn't stumble across this message by accident. You were led to this moment, this exact point in time, by a God who has been preparing you all along. And now He's asking you the question that echoes through eternity. What will your story be? Will your life be a testimony of faith that moved mountains, or hesitation that missed miracles? So many live their entire lives standing on the edge of purpose, peeking into what could be, but never crossing over into what is. They circle the same mountain of fear. They revisit the same valley of indecision. They carry dreams God planted in them years ago, but never act. Why? Because it's safer to wait than to risk. It's easier to imagine than to move. But safety never births legacy. Comfort never produces calling. You're standing at your Red Sea. Behind you is what's familiar. In front of you is the impossible. But what if the sea isn't a barrier? It's an invitation. God is not asking for perfection. He's asking for movement. Your story won't be defined by how much you knew or how long you prayed. It will be defined by whether or not you stepped when He said go. Think of the greats: Esther, David, Joseph, Moses. Each one faced a moment of decision, a point of no return. They didn't wait for everything to make sense. They didn't ask for 10 more signs. They moved. They obeyed. And history remembers them not for their fear, but for their faith. So what about you? Will you be remembered as the one who almost stepped into purpose, who nearly answered the call, who came close but couldn't quite cross the line? Or will you be the one who looked fear in the face, silenced the doubts, and chose to believe that God's promise was greater than your uncertainty? Because here's the truth. If you say no, someone else will say yes. But if you say yes, your story becomes part of something eternal. You won't just live, you'll leave a legacy. You won't just survive, you'll shift generations. So don't wait for the next open door. Don't hold your breath for a more convenient time. The time is now. The choice is yours. What will your story be? Take a moment and look back at your life. Every heartache, every closed door, every quiet whisper from God. It was all shaping you for this very hour. Nothing was wasted. Not the pain, not the waiting, not even the silence. It all led you here. Now, you are standing on holy ground, at the very edge of your divine calling. Heaven has done the work. The blessing is prepared. The breakthrough has your name on it. But there's one thing left: your move. Lift what God has already placed in your hand. Stretch your faith like Moses stretched his rod. Step into the waters like the priests at the Jordan. Run toward your giant like David on the battlefield. Say yes to the call that's been echoing in your soul, because right now, heaven is leaning in. Hell is shaking. So when history speaks your name, what will it say? The choice is yours, but make no mistake, this moment will define you, and eternity is watching. Tears, often dismissed as signs of weakness. But what if I told you that when a chosen one cries, something shifts? Not just within their soul, but across the entire universe. This is not a metaphor. It's a spiritual reality hidden in plain sight. For the awakened, for the seekers, for those who carry divine assignments on earth, every tear is not merely sorrow. It is a summons, a signal, a supernatural ripple that calls forth change. Have you ever felt an unexplainable energy when someone near you wept from the depth of their soul? Now imagine that same energy magnified, because the person crying is not just anyone. They are a chosen one, marked by purpose, burdened with healing, destined to awaken the sleeping. Tears are often dismissed as weakness, fleeting expressions of sorrow that fade as quickly as they fall. But when a chosen one weeps, something far deeper is at play. Their tears are not ordinary. They are charged with divine resonance, vibrating at a spiritual frequency that reaches beyond the physical realm. Each tear is a sacred signal, a whisper to the heavens that a shift is taking place in the fabric of reality. Chosen ones walk with an invisible weight, carrying divine assignments that are often misunderstood by those around them. Their hearts are open, their spirits sensitive to the energies of the world. When they cry, it is not merely personal pain leaking out. It is a release of energetic truth, a surge of divine emotion that echoes through spiritual dimensions. Their sorrow speaks in a language the universe understands. All throughout history and ancient stories, we find examples that prove this truth. Jesus wept at the tomb of Lazarus, and moments later, resurrection followed. The Buddha shed silent tears beneath the Bodhi tree before stepping into enlightenment. These were not just emotional responses, they were spiritual catalysts, acts that awakened divine intervention and altered the course of history. What makes the tears of a chosen one different is not the emotion itself, but the authority behind it. Their tears carry assignment. They carry prophecy. They are the breaking point of human endurance and the turning point of divine purpose. So when a chosen one weeps, the atmosphere shifts. Heaven leans in. The unseen realm responds. To the world, it may seem like they are breaking, but in truth, they are activating. Something ancient, something sacred stirs within them, and the universe takes notice. Because when a chosen one sheds tears, it isn't just emotion, it's divine energy in motion. Tears, often dismissed as signs of weakness. But what if I told you that when a chosen one cries, something shifts? Not just within their soul, but across the entire universe. This is not a metaphor. It's a spiritual reality hidden in plain sight. For the awakened, for the seekers, for those who carry divine assignments on earth, every tear is not merely sorrow. It is a summons, a signal, a supernatural ripple that calls forth change. Have you ever felt an unexplainable energy when someone near you wept from the depth of their soul? Now imagine that same energy magnified, because the person crying is not just anyone. They are a chosen one, marked by purpose, burdened with healing, destined to awaken the sleeping. Tears are often dismissed as weakness, fleeting expressions of sorrow that fade as quickly as they fall. But when a chosen one weeps, something far deeper is at play. Their tears are not ordinary. They are charged with divine resonance, vibrating at a spiritual frequency that reaches beyond the physical realm. Each tear is a sacred signal, a whisper to the heavens that a shift is taking place in the fabric of reality. Chosen ones walk with an invisible weight, carrying divine assignments that are often misunderstood by those around them. Their hearts are open, their spirits sensitive to the energies of the world. When they cry, it is not merely personal pain leaking out. It is a release of energetic truth, a surge of divine emotion that echoes through spiritual dimensions. Their sorrow speaks in a language the universe understands. All throughout history and ancient stories, we find examples that prove this truth. Jesus wept at the tomb of Lazarus, and moments later, resurrection followed. The Buddha shed silent tears beneath the Bodhi tree before stepping into enlightenment. These were not just emotional responses. They were spiritual catalysts, acts that awakened divine intervention and altered the course of history. What makes the tears of a chosen one different is not the emotion itself, but the authority behind it. Their tears carry assignment. They carry prophecy. They are the breaking point of human endurance and the turning point of divine purpose. So when a chosen one weeps, the atmosphere shifts. Heaven leans in. The unseen realm responds. To the world, it may seem like they are breaking, but in truth, they are activating. Something ancient, something sacred stirs within them, and the universe takes notice. Because when a chosen one sheds tears, it isn't just emotion, it's divine energy in motion. What happens when someone harms a chosen one? At first, nothing may seem to change. Life carries on as if nothing happened. But over time, a shift begins, often quiet, but undeniable. Things start to unravel, and those who once stood tall find themselves stumbling. Why? Because the universe operates on an unbreakable principle: balance. And when a chosen one, someone aligned with a divine mission, is hurt unjustly, that balance is disrupted. Their tears don't just fall unnoticed, they ripple through unseen realms, activating what many call karma, but in truth is spiritual justice. This isn't about revenge, it's about restoration. When someone wounds a chosen one, whether through betrayal, deception, or cruelty, they unknowingly trigger a spiritual chain reaction. It might not be immediate, but it is inevitable. The energy they send out must return. This is why so many people who mistreat pure-hearted souls later find themselves facing unexpected hardship. Doors that were once open close. Relationships fall apart. Opportunities vanish. It's not punishment. It's the natural response of a universe protecting what is sacred. Chosen ones are not just individuals. They are vessels of light. Harming them is like throwing a stone into a sacred river. The ripples reach far, and eventually, they come back. So if you've ever wronged a chosen one, even unknowingly, take it seriously. Seek forgiveness. Realign with truth. Because when a chosen one sheds tears, the universe listens, and it always responds. When a chosen one cries, it might seem to others like they're falling apart, overwhelmed by pain, betrayal, or the weight they've been carrying. But on a deeper level, that moment is actually the start of something powerful. A major shift is taking place. You see, their tears don't fall in vain. They carry the weight of unspoken prayers, suppressed emotions, and divine energy ready to move. And once released, that energy begins to reshape everything around them. Relationships start to shift. Environments feel different. People disappear, some by choice, others removed by unseen forces. It may feel like rejection, but in truth, it is redirection. The universe is clearing the path. After deep emotional pain, a chosen one often finds themselves standing in the ruins of what once was, friendships lost, careers left behind, familiar places no longer feeling like home. But these losses are not endings, they are openings. The storm did not destroy them. It washed away what no longer belonged. In this sacred clearing, clarity comes, strength returns, and new doors begin to open. Not just opportunities, but revelations. Many chosen ones awaken to higher truths in the aftermath of heartbreak. Their vision sharpens. Their purpose becomes clearer. This is the divine pattern. The breakdown comes first, then the breakthrough. The tears water the ground where transformation takes root. And from that pain, something extraordinary begins to grow. So when a chosen one weeps, don't mistake it for weakness. It's the first sign of renewal, a divine reset, a powerful transition from who they were to who they were always meant to become. Because after the storm comes the shift. From the outside, a chosen one's lowest moment may look like the end, a collapse under the weight of betrayal, isolation, or heartbreak. But in truth, it is the beginning of something sacred, because the very pain meant to break them becomes the fire that refines them. Suffering, though bitter, awakens something powerful within. When a chosen one is pushed to the edge, it is not defeat that greets them, it is revelation. Through their tears, they begin to shed everything that no longer serves their purpose: false attachments, limiting beliefs, relationships misaligned with their destiny. Their sorrow becomes a sacred stripping away, preparing the ground for something greater. And then, the rise begins. Slowly, but with divine certainty, they start to rebuild, not the life they had, but the life they were always meant to live. They speak with more wisdom, move with greater clarity, and walk with deeper purpose. The pain didn't just shape them, it awakened their true power. This is the unseen transformation. While the world believes they've been defeated, they're actually evolving. Like seeds buried in darkness, their growth begins underground, in silence, in secret. But when they rise, they are stronger, more focused, more aligned. Those who once doubted them begin to take notice. The ones who walked away now look back in disbelief, because the chosen one they once overlooked is now rising, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. So if you've watched someone fall and assumed it was the end of their story, think again. For the chosen one, pain is not a prison. It's a passage. It doesn't destroy them. It reveals who they truly are. Hurting someone who carries light is never just a personal act. It's a spiritual one. And when that someone is a chosen one, aligned with divine purpose, the consequences of that harm reach far beyond what the eye can see. Many believe they can mistreat kind-hearted people and walk away untouched. They might manipulate, betray, or take advantage, assuming their actions will be forgotten. But what they don't realize is that the pain they cause doesn't disappear. It transforms. It becomes energy, and that energy begins to move in ways they cannot control. The tears of a chosen one are not silent in the spiritual realm. They are loud cries for justice that summon divine forces. And once those forces are in motion, the energy must return to where it came from. What was sent out must come back, sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once, but always with purpose. This is not about revenge. It's not about punishment. It's about balance. The universe is built on it. And when that balance is disturbed by wrongdoing, especially against those chosen to carry light, it is only a matter of time before correction follows. Many who have harmed chosen ones eventually face consequences they never expected. Unexpected losses, emotional turmoil, missed opportunities. Life begins to unravel, and they don't always connect the dots. But the spiritual realm never forgets. If you've ever caused harm to someone who only wished you well, take it seriously. Reflect. Make amends. Because hurting a chosen one is never just between you and them. It's between you and the laws that govern the unseen. And those laws, they always respond. When life pushes a chosen one to the edge, when everything they trusted seems to fall apart, it may seem like they're being crushed beyond repair. But what looks like the end is often just the beginning of a divine transformation. The journey of a chosen one is never easy. They face trials that test not just their strength, but their spirit. They lose people they love, endure rejection, and walk through seasons of deep loneliness. Yet through it all, something greater is happening. Something the eye can't see but the soul can feel. Every loss becomes a lesson. Every heartbreak, a redirection, and every breakdown, a setup for breakthrough. While the world sees only the pain, heaven sees preparation. The crushing isn't meant to destroy them. It's meant to extract what's pure, what's purposeful, what's divine. Just like olives must be pressed to produce oil, chosen ones often find their greatest power in their most painful seasons. It's in the pressing that their true anointing begins to flow. And when they rise, because they always do, they carry a presence that's different. Sharpened by experience, humbled by pain, and aligned with purpose, they no longer fit the mold of who they used to be. They emerge stronger, wiser, and ready for the next level of their calling. The path from crushed to crowned is never straight. It is winding, painful, and full of uncertainty. But for those who are chosen, it's sacred. It's part of the divine cycle, one that turns pain into purpose and sorrow into strength. So if you're in the middle of the crushing, hold on. You're not being buried. You're being prepared. To every chosen one listening, Know this: your tears were never wasted. Your pain has purpose. You were never meant to blend in, because you were born to break cycles, to carry light into dark places, and to awaken souls still asleep to their own power. If you've ever felt the weight of being misunderstood, if you've walked through seasons of sorrow that made no sense, yet found yourself stronger on the other side, then you are not alone. You are part of something bigger, something sacred. You are walking the chosen path. Thank you for spending this time with us and for opening your heart to this message. If it resonated with you, if it stirred something deep within, we invite you to join our growing family of awakened souls. Subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a message meant for your spirit. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when the noise of the world fades just long enough for the voice of truth to whisper through. Maybe it comes through a question you can't shake, a dream that won't let go, or a quiet nudge in your spirit that whispers, "There's more to you than what you've been told." You may not have always been able to name it, but deep within you, you've always felt it, this undeniable sense that you are different, destined for something greater. But for as long as you've sensed it, others have tried to dim that light, to bury your brilliance, to make you doubt the very essence of your soul. Why? Because they saw your light before you did, and they feared what might happen if you saw it too. This is not just a message, it's a spiritual awakening, a revelation hidden for generations, a divine call written into your DNA, placed there by the one who created you before the foundations of the world. And now, it's time you remembered who you really are. From the very first breath you drew, something about your presence was different. You may not remember it clearly, but the atmosphere around you shifted, almost as if the heavens themselves paused to mark your arrival. You were born not just into a family or a culture, but into a divine timeline where your life would serve a higher purpose. While others were learning to crawl and play, you may have felt an unusual stillness in certain moments, an inner awareness that made you observe more deeply than a child your age should. These weren't simply personality quirks or chance experiences. They were early echoes of something sacred woven into your spirit. Long before you could articulate your thoughts, you sensed something invisible watching over you, calling you forward, whispering truths that only your heart could hear. You didn't choose this awareness. It was chosen for you. Every unexplainable pull toward silence, every spark of wonder in your soul when gazing at the stars, every time you felt peace in solitude. Those were moments when eternity brushed against time, leaving fingerprints on your soul. The world may have overlooked these signs, but heaven never did. While others might have thought you shy or overly reflective, the truth is that you were already listening to a frequency few could hear. It was the divine rhythm of destiny, already pulsing inside you. The Bible reminds us in Ephesians 1:4 that you were chosen before the foundation of the world, meaning your calling predates even creation itself. You are not random. You are a living thread in the tapestry of God's eternal design. And that strange sense of being different, that quiet inner knowing that never quite left you, it's the spiritual inheritance of someone marked for more. The signs were always there, gently guiding you, nudging you toward the path you were created to walk. You don't need to fabricate your worth or prove your calling. It's been with you since the beginning, silently maturing inside your soul. Now is the time to remember what the world has tried to make you forget. You were set apart from the start. There are people who walk through life fitting perfectly into the mold set before them, blending in effortlessly with the rhythm of the world. But that was never your story. From a young age, you sensed that your path diverged from the expected. While others laughed carelessly, chasing trends and blending into social circles, you often found yourself on the outside, not because you couldn't belong, but because you saw life through a deeper lens. The questions that stirred in your soul were not the kind most children asked. Why am I here? What does all of this mean? These weren't fleeting curiosities. They were signs of something ancient waking up within you. You tried to explain how you felt, but often met blank stares or uncomfortable silence. And so, you learned to carry the weight of your questions quietly. But that internal depth was not a mistake. It was your preparation. The world labeled you as different, but God had labeled you as destined. Your mind, your heart, your sensitivity, it was all crafted by design. Like the young prophet Samuel, who heard God's voice before he even understood who was speaking, you too were being called long before anyone around you could see it. It wasn't that you were lost. It was that the world was not equipped to recognize what you carried. When others chased popularity, your spirit yearned for purpose. When people ignored the pain of others, you felt it like your own. You may have felt isolated, but that very isolation was sacred ground, where God was forming your identity, setting you apart for a mission only you could fulfill. Often, those chosen to lead are the ones who are misunderstood the most. Think of Moses, Esther, or Joseph. Their early lives were filled with contradiction, rejection, and delay, but it all served to shape the strength required for their divine purpose. Your struggles have not been signs of weakness. They've been the chiseling tools of heaven, carving purpose into the very core of your being. You were never made to follow the crowd. You were born to carry light into places that have forgotten how to see. And even if the world still doesn't fully understand you, heaven always has. There's a certain kind of pain that doesn't leave bruises on the skin, but lingers deep in the soul, the pain of rejection. And if you've known it, not just once, but as a pattern throughout your life, it's likely because your spirit carries something that made others uncomfortable. Not everyone can handle the weight of someone who was born to shift atmospheres. People sensed something different in you, something they couldn't quite explain, so they kept their distance, misunderstood you, or even pushed you away. You may have spent years asking what was wrong with you, trying to fix yourself to be more acceptable, to make others feel more at ease. But what you didn't realize then was that their rejection wasn't a reflection of your inadequacy. It was confirmation of your calling. The most powerful souls in history, those destined to bring change, almost always began as outsiders. Look at Joseph, betrayed by his brothers not because he was weak, but because of the greatness they could see forming in him. Or consider Jesus himself, rejected by the very people he came to save. Their stories remind us that rejection doesn't disqualify you. It often reveals you. In truth, being set apart will always come with the cost of not fitting in. The world rarely recognizes the sacred when it's wrapped in human flesh. But heaven does. The very places where you were overlooked, abandoned, or underestimated were often the places God used to refine you. Every no was training. Every closed door was redirection. Every season of loneliness was a classroom in which God taught you to lean not on the approval of man, but on the presence of the one who called you. In Jeremiah 1:5, God says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." That is not poetry. It is your reality. You were never meant to be ordinary. You carry a sacred fire within you by nature, cannot be confined. So don't curse the rejection. It was part of your making. You weren't cast aside. You were carved out for something far greater than they could see. While others brushed past people without noticing the weight in their eyes or the tremble in their voice, you couldn't help but feel it. Deeply, fully, sometimes overwhelmingly. Even as a child, you may have sensed when someone was hurting, even when they smiled. You could walk into a room and instantly pick up on unspoken emotions, subtle energies, and buried pain. And maybe for much of your life, you thought something was wrong with you, that you were too sensitive, too emotional, too much. But what if that sensitivity wasn't a flaw, but a divine imprint, a signature of the Creator, woven into your spirit with intention? What if your ability to feel wasn't a burden, but a sacred gift designed to reflect the heart of God? People like you, those with tender spirits and deep compassion, are often the first to feel the brokenness of the world and the last to give up on it. That is no accident. It's because God trusted you with a heart like His. Scripture tells us in Galatians 6:2, "Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. And that's what you've done, again and again, without needing recognition, without seeking reward. You were the one people turned to in silence, because your presence spoke safety. But what others often failed to realize is how much it cost you to carry what wasn't yours. You've poured out comfort, understanding, love, and sometimes been left empty in return. Still, you gave, because something inside you wouldn't let you walk away. That's not weakness, that's spiritual strength clothed in quiet humility. You weren't created to harden your heart. You were created to heal with it. Your empathy is not just emotional, it's prophetic. You see what others overlook. You feel what others silence. And that makes you a vessel of light in a darkened world. So if you've ever wondered why you carry the burdens you do, or why your heart breaks for people you barely know, it's because heaven gave you a heart big enough to hold more than your own pain. And in a world desperate for love, that kind of heart is holy. There are dreams that vanish the moment we open our eyes, soft fragments of imagination that drift away like morning mist. But then, there are the others, the ones that feel more real than waking life. If you've ever awakened with your heart racing, clutching a message you couldn't quite explain, or if a dream has followed you for days, tugging at your spirit as if it carried a secret meant only for you, then you've touched something sacred. For those who are chosen, dreams are often more than sleep. They are encounters, divine whispers in the quiet hours of the night. You may have dismissed them, or kept them to yourself for fear of being misunderstood, but you've always known, these dreams are different. You've seen glimpses of the future, warnings, callings, even faces you've never met in places you've never been. And it wasn't just imagination, it was the spiritual realm speaking into your life. Throughout Scripture, God uses dreams to guide and reveal, to protect and prepare. Joseph, the son of Jacob, saw visions of his future long before it came to pass. Though he was mocked, sold, and imprisoned, those very dreams became the blueprint for his divine purpose. And just like him, your dreams may have been misunderstood, but they were never meaningless. You see, chosen ones often have a thinner veil between the physical and the spiritual. Your sleep doesn't disconnect you. It connects you to something higher. When the world grows quiet, heaven speaks. The Bible reminds us in Joel 2:28, "Your sons and daughters will prophesy, your old men will dream dreams, your young men will see visions." God has always used dreams to deliver divine instruction, and He still does. The question is, are you listening? Perhaps you've had dreams that felt too powerful to ignore, too alive to forget. Maybe you've even seen events unfold that you once only dreamed about. That's calling. It's preparation for a destiny that stretches far beyond what your waking mind can comprehend. So the next time you close your eyes and feel yourself swept into something larger than life, don't brush it off. God may be speaking, preparing you, inviting you to remember what your soul already knows. Your dreams are more than visions. They are keys to your purpose. There have been times in your life when something invisible stepped in to protect or guide you. Moments you didn't fully notice at first. A delay that frustrated you at the time, but later spared you from danger. A closed door that protected you from a heartbreak you didn't see coming. A narrow escape, a sudden opportunity, a peace that surrounded you in the middle of chaos. These moments weren't luck. They weren't coincidence. They were proof that you've been shielded by a presence far greater than you realized. While you were busy questioning your worth or wondering if anyone truly saw you, heaven was already moving on your behalf. God's hand was there in the shadows, redirecting, rerouting, preserving. And not just once, but again and again. If you look closely, you'll see the pattern. Divine fingerprints all over your journey. You've walked through fire and somehow didn't burn. You've faced storms and came out with a strength that even surprised you. These aren't just survival stories. They're signs. You are being kept, not by your own strength, but by God's divine protection. The Bible promises in Psalm 34:7, "The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them." You may not have seen the angels, but you felt the rescue. When everything could have gone wrong, somehow it didn't. When you didn't have the answers, provision still showed up. When you were at your lowest, you were carried. This isn't to say the journey has been easy, but even in your hardest battles, you were never truly alone. There's a reason you're still standing. There's a reason you've come through things that would have crushed others. It's because your life is tied to a purpose that has not yet been fulfilled. You are still breathing because there is still something heaven is calling you to do. That instinct you've had, that knowing deep down that you've been preserved for more. You're here by divine design, and every time the enemy tried to write your ending, God was already preparing a new beginning. So take heart. You are protected, not because you're lucky, but because you're chosen. And the one who calls you will never stop covering you. There's always been something inside you that resisted the pull to follow the crowd. Even when it would have been easier to blend in, to agree, to stay quiet, something in your spirit whispered, "This isn't your way." And maybe you tried to silence it at times, to go along just to keep the peace, but you couldn't, because you weren't made to echo the voices of others. You were born to carry a sound that is uniquely yours. From the very beginning, leadership has been in your bones. Not in the form of control or titles, but in the quiet courage to walk a different road. Chosen ones are rarely the loudest in the room, but they carry a presence that shifts the atmosphere. And that's why you've often felt misunderstood. You weren't ignoring the rules. You were born to rewrite them. The world celebrates those who conform, who fit into systems, who maintain the status quo. But heaven celebrates the ones who rise, even when it costs them everything. Just look at Moses, called to speak when he felt unqualified, or Esther, who risked her life to stand for truth, or Paul, who was once rejected by both the world and the religious elite, yet became a vessel for divine transformation. Like them, you felt the pressure of two worlds, the one that tells you to stay silent, and the one that calls you to speak truth. But here's what you need to know. Your resistance to conformity isn't rebellion, it's revelation. You've been given eyes to see what others overlook, a heart to feel what others numb, and a voice to carry what others are afraid to say. And that is not a burden, it is a mantle. When you were born, heaven did not assign you to follow the herd. It marked you to lead in love, to break barriers, to be a bridge for others who are still trapped in fear. Leadership, in its truest form, is service. It's vision. It's courage wrapped in compassion. And that is exactly what lives inside you. So if you've ever wondered why you feel out of step with the world around you, it's because you weren't meant to march to its rhythm. You were designed to set a new one. From the time you were young, your mind seemed wired differently. While others accepted the world as it was, you couldn't help but ask why. Why do we exist? What is our purpose? Who is God, really? These weren't just random thoughts. They were quiet invitations from heaven, placed deep within you. Your curiosity has always been more than intellectual. It's been spiritual. It tugged at you when you stared at the stars, when you read stories of miracles, or when you sat in silence and felt there had to be more. There's always been a hunger in you to understand the bigger picture, to find the deeper meaning behind things others take for granted. And that hunger? It's not a flaw. It's a flame. A sign that God has called you to search for what's hidden from plain sight. Proverbs 25:2 says, "It is the glory of God to conceal a matter. To search out a matter is the glory of kings." In other words, God hides truth like treasure, and those who are drawn to seek it are walking in royal purpose. Your need to question, explore, and understand has always been a compass, pointing you toward your divine calling. Others might have misunderstood your searching nature. Some may have dismissed you as too intense or too philosophical. But you were never asking shallow questions. You were reaching for something eternal. Think of Solomon, who didn't ask God for wealth or power, but for wisdom, and because of that, he was given more than he could have imagined. What if your questions are preparing you for that same kind of divine outpouring? You see, curiosity like yours is not common. It's a sign. A sign that God is drawing you closer, revealing layer by layer the purpose He planted within you long ago. So don't silence your wonder. Don't dull your hunger for truth. It's through that very desire that God will continue to lead you, not just to answers, but to the deeper revelation of who you truly are in Him. And now, the truth has found you, maybe for the first time, or maybe as a gentle reminder of what your spirit has always known. You were never forgotten. You were chosen. Every moment of pain, every question that wouldn't go away, every time you felt different or out of place, it was all part of the preparation for something greater. Your story is not one of accident, but of intention. You have been protected, preserved, and awakened for a purpose far beyond what you can yet imagine. The signs have been there all along, guiding you, shaping you, calling you closer to the truth of who you really are. This is just the beginning of your journey back to your divine identity. A journey not walked alone, but alongside others who are awakening too. If this message has stirred something deep inside you, if it brought peace, clarity, or the sense that you've finally been seen, then I want to thank you. Thank you for showing up today. Thank you for listening with your heart. If you feel called to walk this path with us, I warmly invite you to subscribe to this channel. Join a growing community of souls who, like you, are ready to rise into their calling. Your voice, your presence, your light, it matters here. And together, we'll continue to uncover the purpose, power, and promise that God has placed within each of us. Don't forget to like this video and share it with someone who may need this reminder today. You never know how your simple act of sharing could become the spark that ignites someone else's awakening. Until next time, stay grounded in truth, walk boldly in purpose, and may God's peace go with you always.